shadow palace, stained with blood. The silver moonlight pierced the night like a cold blade. She knelt there, the icy stone floor freezing her to the bone. Her tattered skirt was caked with dust and blood. Her slender body trembled slightly, her breath so weak it seemed ready to falter. The mocking laughter of the nobles around her coiled around her like venomous snakes, shrill and vicious. This lowly commoner, picked up from the border, thinks she'll survive the night. What a joke. From the throne, that man, the werewolf Alpha King, Ronan Ver, was gazing down at her coldly. He stood nearly 2 meters tall, broad-shouldered and narrow-waisted, his jet-black hair flowing freely, his amber eyes glinting with a beastly cruelty in the torchlight. His fingers tapped casually on the armrest, each tap feeling like a sledgehammer striking her heart. Her name was Ella Ravencroft, and on the surface, she was merely a frail court maid who seemed as though a breeze could knock her over. But no one knew that she kept a world-shattering power tightly locked within her, all because of that damned ancient prophecy. The weak shall survive, while the strong shall perish beneath the throne. Ella bowed her head, her long lashes trembling. Her voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzz, laced with sobs. "Your Majesty, I just accidentally broke a cup. Please spare me." Her body was shaking violently, not out of fear of death, but from the struggle to suppress the terrifying magic that was nearly bursting through her meridians. Her heart pounded wildly, rumbling in her ears like war drums. A burning, stinging pain shot through her fingertips. The power was raging, screaming to erupt, to tear everything apart. Ronan's gaze fell upon her like a knife, laced with scrutiny and a hint of amusement. Suddenly, he caught the faint, distinctive scent of a mate on her. The scent made his chest tighten sharply, and his wolfish instincts surged wildly, urging him to pull this woman, who looked as if she might collapse at any moment, into his arms and protect her fiercely. But he quickly frowned, suppressing that absurd urge. "Weakling." His voice was deep and magnetic, yet laced with icy, murderous intent. "In my kingdom, weakness is an original sin." No sooner had the words left his mouth than a nobleman lashed out with a kick, aiming straight for Ella's soft abdomen. She deliberately did not dodge. Her body flew through the air like a torn sack, crashing heavily onto the stone pavement. Agonizing pain exploded instantly, spreading from her abdomen to her limbs. She clenched her teeth and forced out a muffled, choked sob. Blood trickled from the corner of her mouth, its salty, metallic taste instantly filling her mouth. But at that very moment, her inner self was raging wildly. "Hold on. Just one more second is enough. I must survive. Only then can I tear this damned fate apart with my own hands." Tears slid down her cheeks. She lifted her head, her eyes wet and pitiful, gazing up at the man towering above her. Ronan's brow furrowed even deeper. In that instant, it felt as though something had wrenched his heart. Frustration, anger, and a hint of something even he couldn't quite name. Heartache. This is where the story begins. A woman who hides all her sharp edges deep within her very being, and a cold-blooded Alpha King who rules the entire werewolf clan. On the surface, she is his plaything, a pitiful creature he saved on a whim. But in reality, she is the pivotal figure in the prophecy, carefully placed on the chessboard by hidden forces. The kingdom of moonlight appeared peaceful and prosperous on the surface, but behind the scenes, 3 major factions were engaged in a frenzied power struggle. The Council of Priestesses who manipulated prophecies, the exiled werewolf rebels, and the Hand of Shadows, which always remained hidden in the shadows. They all want to see Ronan, the terrifyingly powerful Alpha King, dead. Only when he is dead will the balance of the pack collapse, allowing them to divide up the legendary eternal power said to rewrite destiny. Ella knows everything. She chose to feign weakness, simply to survive until today, to avoid being eliminated as a threat, and to inch closer to this man, so she could personally break the curse of fate that binds her. Ronan suddenly stood up, his towering figure casting a deep shadow that completely engulfed her. He approached step by step, his leather boots thudding against the stone floor, each step making the air feel more oppressive, more suffocating. He crouched down, his cold, powerful fingers roughly gripping her chin, forcing her to look up. The moment their eyes met, Ella's heart nearly stopped. His presence engulfed her, carrying the domineering, oppressive aura unique to a male alpha. Her stomach clenched, and where their skin touched, it felt as though she'd been struck by a fierce electric current, sending a tingling sensation straight to the base of her spine. "Woman," his voice was low and hoarse, laced with a dangerous smirk, "are you truly afraid of me?" Ella's lips trembled, her voice breaking with a sob, so fragile it was heartbreaking. "I'm afraid your majesty is as powerful as a god. A lowly commoner like me is, of course, terrified to death." Yet, in the deepest recesses of her eyes, a faint glimmer of defiance and cold resolve flashed, a glimmer known only to her. Ronan suddenly smiled, a smile that instantly dropped the temperature in the entire hall to freezing. He released his grip, but roughly wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth with his thumb. The motion seemed gentle, yet the force was so heavy it nearly made her cry out in pain. "From today onward, you are my personal maid," he announced publicly, his voice echoing throughout the hall. "Stay alive and prove you still have some use." The nobles let out gasps and murmurs of discontent, but no one dared defy the king's command. Ella lowered her head, the corners of her mouth curving ever so slightly in a way no one could see. Step 1 accomplished. She knew this was only the most dangerous beginning. Every day from now on would be like dancing on the edge of a knife. She would have to continue pretending to be the most fragile speck of dust, while secretly amassing enough power to overturn everything. What was even more terrifying was that the increasingly intense bond between them was making her feel an uncontrollable, burning desire for this man who was supposed to be her enemy. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears, and her blood boiled like magma. Ella said harshly to herself in her mind, "I have never been weak. I've merely hidden the sharpest blade in the deepest sheath. When the time comes, I will make the entire kingdom pay tenfold for today's humiliation and bloodshed." Yet, as Ronan turned to leave, his back seemed stiff. His knuckles were white from clenching his fists. The woman's tears and bloodstains seemed to linger on his fingertips, burning with a heat that left him restless and agitated. On this very night, the gears of fate, tinged with the scent of blood and taboo, began to turn frantically without a sound. A woman disguised as a weakling and an alpha king who believes he controls everything. Their story is destined to be filled with heart-wrenching struggles, betrayal, redemption, and the blood-pumping passion of true love and revenge. Can true love shatter the ancient prophecy? What earth-shattering conspiracy will the hidden forces unleash? And when her true power erupts in full force, what kind of upheaval will the entire kingdom face? Tonight, let's start right here and step together into this heart-pounding, tear-jerking, utterly exhilarating world of fantasy and destiny. In the days that followed, Ella Ravencroft found herself completely ensnared in the vast web of the Moonshadow Palace, woven from countless hidden threads. The morning mist still clung to the towering stone columns, seeping its cold dampness into her skin, as she was forced to kneel on the rough marble floor outside Ronan's bedchamber. The skin on her knees burned with a stinging pain. Every slight shift felt like tiny grains of stone embedding themselves in her flesh, causing a sharp, piercing ache. The rim of the medicine bowl she held in her hands was so hot it had turned her palms red. Steam rose continuously, mingling with the bitter scent of herbs that assaulted her nostrils, causing her throat to tighten in waves. From the distant corridor came the heavy footsteps of guards. Each step felt like a drumbeat pounding against her heart. Ronan pushed open the heavy oak door of the bedchamber, his gaze landing on her immediately. His towering figure cast a shadow over her, and his voice was deep yet carried a barely perceptible softness. "Ella, it's you again. Come in and set the medicine down." Ella kept her head bowed, her voice so soft it seemed it might break at any moment. "Yes, Your Majesty. Thank you for Your Majesty's grace." As she rose, she deliberately made her steps unsteady. Her body swayed, and Ronan immediately reached out to steady her waist. The palm of his large hand was burning hot and firm. Even through the thin fabric, she could feel the rough texture of his fingertips, sending a fine shiver across the skin at her side. Meanwhile, the tentacles of the Council of Priestesses had already burrowed deep into the upper echelons of the royal palace. That evening, while tidying her study, Ella inadvertently overheard low voices coming from a secret chamber behind the wall. She pressed her body tightly against the cold stone wall. The rough surface scraped against her cheeks and chest, sending waves of chill and stinging pain through her. The air carried the sickly sweet, putrid scent of burning exotic spices. A hoarse, elderly female voice slowly rose from within. "The second phase of the prophecy has begun. The stronger Ronan's connection to that woman named Ella grows, the weaker his wolfish instincts will become. We must push for the pure blood purification bill at next week's Pack Council. Ostensibly, it's to preserve the werewolf bloodline, but in reality, it's to force all the neutral lords to our side. Anyone who dares to oppose us will use shards of the eternal power as bait and make them turn on each other." Another voice chimed in with a chilling laugh, its nails scraping against the stone table with a grating sound. "Ella must continue to pretend. She's a worthless failure. If she reveals even a hint of magic, we'll immediately initiate the sacrifice ritual and use her blood to awaken the cursed beast, slumbering beneath the throne. Remember, sisters, only the weak survive to the end." Ella's heart clenched violently. Her chest felt as if an invisible hand were squeezing it tightly, her breath shallow and ragged. Her fingertips were ice cold as she dug them deep into the cracks in the wall, the stone dust embedding itself under her nails and causing a searing pain. Through the crack in the door, she caught a glimpse of the distorted shadows cast by the black candles, like a horde of ghosts ready to pounce at any moment. Meanwhile, the exiled werewolf rebels were plotting even bloodier actions along the border. Late at night, Ella risked slipping out of the palace through the damp, slimy underground passageways. The walls were covered in moss. Their slippery texture made her nearly fall with every step, while the earthy stench and the sour rot of decaying leaves assaulted her nostrils. When she reached the meeting point in the dense forest, the rebel leader, a burly beta werewolf covered in gruesome scars, grabbed her arm with such force he nearly crushed her bones. "Listen, little pawn," the leader's voice rasped like sandpaper, low and oppressive. "We've already turned 3 beta tribes in the east. They'll stage attacks while Ronan is on patrol to force him to split his forces. Once you return, you must deliberately mention smoke signals in the east to Ronan, making him suspect his lieutenants have turned against him." His rough palm slid up her arm, carrying a threatening edge. "Remember, if you dare betray us, we'll force your magic to awaken prematurely and let Ronan tear you to pieces with his own hands." Ella fought back the pain, her voice trembling. "I understand. I'll follow the plan." Yet inside, she sneered coldly as her magic stirred faintly deep within her meridians, like countless tiny currents coursing through her, bringing a tingling sensation that was both painful and empowering. Meanwhile, the Hand of Shadow's organization was weaving an even more intricate trap among the nobility. During a secret late-night meeting, Ella hid above the ventilation ducts, the cold, hard metal pressing down on her chest, making it feel tight. She heard a tall, thin count below her say in a high-pitched voice, "We can't just assassinate him. That's too stupid. We have to let the pack rot from within. I suggest His Majesty implement a partner vetting system. On the surface, it's to protect the king, but in reality, it will shackle every alpha's partner. Those ambitious families will surely jump at the chance to oppose it, creating even deeper rifts. Another noble chuckled softly, the clink of wine glasses ringing sharp and piercing. Especially Ronan's mother, she's already contacted us privately. The old lady said that if Ella continues to bewitch the king, she'll make sure she accidentally disappears. Ella's arm was scraped raw by the edge of the pipe, and sweat trickled down her spine. She clenched her teeth and listened intently to every word. The political conflict within the pack had finally erupted in full force in the council chamber. Torches crackled and flared in the spacious hall, and the sound of leather seats scraping against the floor echoed constantly. Kelvin, the burly werewolf lieutenant, leapt to his feet and slammed his fist down on the long table, the thunderous crack of splintering wood sending wine glasses clattering. His face flushed crimson, veins bulging, he roared, "Your Majesty, for the sake of a frail woman of unknown origin, you have ignored the smoke signals from the eastern border. Our warriors are bleeding, yet you are in your bedchamber favoring her. The pack's loyalty is crumbling." The other lieutenants chimed in one after another, their voices growing increasingly strident. The tension in the air was almost palpable. Ronan sat in the seat of honor, the atmosphere so heavy it was suffocating. He placed his large hand on Ella's shoulder. The pressure seemed meant to soothe, but it was actually so heavy, it made her shoulder bones ache faintly. Ella knelt at his feet, tears streaming down her face, her voice so soft it broke the heart. "Your Majesty, please do not quarrel with the lords over me. Ella is but a lowly handmaiden, unworthy." Ronan looked down at her, a complex gleam flashing in his amber eyes, and whispered, "Be silent, Ella. You are mine, and whoever dares to question that, I will tear them to pieces." The conflict reached a minor climax in the hunting grounds. In the dense forest, leaves rustled and beasts growled incessantly. Ronan rode a black horse, with Ella following at his side. She deliberately pretended to be exhausted, her body swaying, sweat soaking the back of her clothes, making her feel sticky and uncomfortable. Suddenly, an assassin disguised as a wild wolf leapt from the bushes, the screech of claws tearing through the air piercing their ears. Ronan shifted instantly, his muscles bulged in his wolf form. Growling, he lunged forward, his sharp claws ripping through the enemy's flesh. Warm blood spattered onto Ella's face, carrying a strong metallic scent. Ella threw herself at his side, crying out, "Your Majesty, be careful. Please don't get hurt. I'm scared." Her hand pressed against his wound, feeling the warm blood gushing out, sticky and scalding. Ronan's wolf claws gently pressed against her back. The rough pads offered a strange comfort, yet also made her acutely aware of the danger of the mate bond. That searing desire was eroding her sanity. That night, Ronan carried her back to the bedchamber once more, his broad, scorching chest pressed against her back, his masculine scent completely enveloping her. His fingers slid over her waist, their rough texture sending shivers through her, and a deep voice sounded in her ear. "Ella, why do I feel that you are far stronger than you appear? Every time you tremble, I want to lock you away, so no one can see you." Ella buried her face in the crook of his neck, tears streaming down her cheeks, her voice breaking with sobs. "Your Majesty, I'm just afraid of losing you, afraid that all of this is just a dream." But inside, her heart responded with icy resolve, "Because I must be stronger than all of you to survive, to tear apart this web of fate." The awakening potion from the Council of Sorceresses, the rebel uprising at the border, the Hand of Shadow's loyalty test, her mother's secret warning. All the conspiracies revolve around the two of them. The political web tightens like a spider's web. Every heartbeat, every touch, pushes them deeper into the abyss. The true storm is about to break, and Ella is ready to dance on the edge of a knife, waiting for the moment to strike back. In the days that followed, Ella Ravencroft found herself thoroughly entangled in a web of intrigue meticulously woven by multiple factions. Every step felt like walking on thin ice, where the slightest misstep could shatter her to pieces. 3 days after the incident at the hunting grounds, the atmosphere in the council chamber of Moon Shadow Palace was so tense you could almost wring water from it. The flickering flames of the torches cast dancing shadows on the walls, and the air was thick with the acrid smoke of burning candles, mixed with the earthy, sweaty stench carried in by the warriors. Ronan sat in the seat of honor, his towering frame radiating an oppressive heat. His hand rested casually on Ella's shoulder. The warmth from his palm seeped through the fabric into her skin, leaving her feeling both reassured and vaguely uneasy. Kelvin stepped forward again, his voice even more aggressive this time, his fist slamming down on the table with a dull thud. "Your Majesty, the 3 tribes on the eastern border have openly rebelled. They fly the banner of purebloods, but in reality they are after your throne. And yet, you are still distracted by this woman of unknown origin. The brothers of the pack are all questioning whether you have been bewitched by her mate's scent." The other lieutenants murmured their agreement, the sound of chairs scraping across the floor grating on the ears. Ella knelt at Ronan's feet, her body trembling slightly, deliberately letting tears stream down her cheeks. Her voice was choked with sobs, yet every word was clear. "Your Majesty, Ella truly isn't worth you arguing with everyone over me. If my leaving can restore peace to the pack, then I'm willing to go." Her fingers gently clasped the hem of Ronan's boot, her fingertips cold yet carrying a barely perceptible tremor. Ronan's muscles visibly tensed, and his deep voice boomed like a muffled thunderclap. "Whoever dares let her go, I'll rip their throat out. Ella is mine. You all need only obey." After the meeting, Ronan pulled her into a private lounge. The moment the heavy wooden door closed, his strong arms pinned her against the wall. The cold stone texture scraped against her back, sending shivers down her spine. His breath was scorching as it brushed against her neck, and complex emotions burned in his amber eyes. "Do you think you can just walk away? Your scent is already etched into my blood, Ella. Every time I see you tremble, I want to hide you away and keep anyone from touching you." Ella lifted her tear-filled eyes, her lips trembling slightly. "Your Majesty, I'm just afraid of being a burden to you. Afraid that those elders might betray you because of me." Deep down, however, her thoughts churned like a storm. "These rifts are exactly what I need. The deeper the suspicion within the pack, the greater my chance of finding a weakness." Meanwhile, the actions of the Council of Witches grew even more covert and vicious. They dispatched a personal attendant to lace Ella's dinner with a stronger awakening potion. That night, Ella was alone in a room in the side hall. The candlelight was dim and flickering. As the potion took effect, it felt as though countless fire ants were crawling through her veins, a burning sensation spreading from her fingertips all the way to her heart. She curled up on the bed, the silk sheets soaked through with sweat, cold and clammy against her burning skin. Her breathing was so ragged, she felt as if she might suffocate. Magic churned restlessly within her, like a caged beast battering against her will. She clenched her teeth, a stifled whimper rising in her throat, but she held herself back, refusing to let a sound escape. Hold on a little longer," she repeated silently in her mind. "This is the price for power." The rebels weren't idle either. Early the next morning, a rebel disguised as a messenger slipped her a blood-stained parchment. The rough paper bore a message written in code. "The Eastern forces have risen. Kelvin Ronan's second-in-command is already half in our pocket. He will stage an assassination attempt during his next patrol, giving you a chance to approach the throne. Remember, the prophecy must be fulfilled. Only the weak shall survive." Ella tucked the note into her sleeve. The edge scraped against her skin, causing a faint sting. Outwardly, she continued to play the role of a delicate maid, serving tea and water to Ronan, while secretly observing everyone's reactions. The shadow hand, meanwhile, was exerting deeper control through Ronan's mother. The elderly Alpha's widow summoned Ella once more to the rose garden. The garden's rich scent of rose petals mingled with the damp earth, and sunlight dappled the stone path. She seized Ella's wrist with a grip as tight as an iron vice, her sharp nails nearly digging into her skin. "Child, do you think you can fool him forever by pretending to be weak? The pack needs strong bloodlines, not a liability that might collapse at any moment. If the pure blood bill passes next week, you'd better disappear on your own, or I'll see to it myself." Ella bowed her head, tears falling in plums, her voice a whisper. "Madam, I understand. I won't put His Majesty in a difficult position." By the time she left the garden, several faint red marks had appeared on her arm. The pain served as a stark reminder of the urgency of the situation. That night, Ronan once again pulled her into the bedchamber, his body pressed down on her like a wall of scorching fire, his broad chest pressed tightly against her back, his masculine scent so intense it made her dizzy. Rough fingers slid over her waist and spine, sending waves of tingling shivers through her. His hoarse voice sounded in her ear. "Ella, tell me the truth. What are you hiding? Why do I increasingly feel that you are not as simple as you appear?" Ella turned around, burying her face in the crook of his neck. Her tears soaked his skin, and her voice, though choked with sobs, was full of seduction. "Your Majesty, I am just a wretched soul you rescued from the border. I'm afraid that one day you will cast me aside." Yet inside, she was calculating coldly. "Get a little closer, and I'll turn your trust into my weapon." The conflict escalated rapidly over the next few days. An urgent military report from the border arrived, announcing that the eastern tribes had openly rebelled. In the council chamber, Kelvin immediately demanded to lead troops to suppress the uprising, but was refused by Ronan. The two argued in public, and Kelvin roared, "Your Majesty, you've been completely blinded by that woman. The future of the pack cannot be destroyed by a weakling." His fist smashed the table, sending splinters flying as blood seeped from his knuckles. Ronan's wolfish nature was fully aroused. He sprang to his feet, his presence as overwhelming as a mountain. "Get out, dare to question me again, and I'll tear you apart right here." Ella knelt nearby, trembling with fear on the surface, but in reality observing the gleam of conspiracy that flashed in Kelvin's eyes. She knew the real assassination attempt would come soon. That long-planned assassination finally erupted during an inspection of the eastern territories. Deep in the forest, the night wind rustled through the leaves, and the moonlight shone coldly. Ronan's party suddenly fell into an ambush. The piercing whistle of arrows cutting through the air was followed by the thunderous crack of bones snapping as werewolves shifted. Ronan shielded Ella behind him. In his wolf form, his muscles bulged as his claws tore through the enemy's bodies. Warm blood spattered everywhere, the pungent, rusty scent of it making one want to vomit. Taking advantage of the chaos, a rebel assassin lunged at Ella, his claws carrying a whiff of bloodlust. She deliberately screamed and stumbled backward, but the instant she hit the ground, she released a faint thread of magic from her fingertips. A blue spark struck the assassin's leg silently, causing him to falter. Ronan turned to see her lying in a pool of blood. A rare flicker of terror crossed his amber eyes. He lunged forward, scooping her up, his scorching wolf's body wrapping tightly around her trembling form. "Ella, hold on." In that moment, his body heat, his breath, and his heartbeat all poured into her without reserve. Ella pressed her face against his thickly furred chest as tears streamed down her cheeks, yet a complex wave of emotion welled up within her. Does he really care about me? After the assassination attempt was quelled, Ronan tended to her wounds himself inside the tent. His fingers were gentle yet firm. The pain from his pressure on the wound made her gasp, yet it also brought her back to her senses. The rift within the pack was beyond repair. The Council of Shamans, the rebels, the Hand of Shadows, and those scheming lieutenants all had their eyes fixed on them. A true turning point was approaching, and her disguise was nearing its limit. Ella understood that the tug of war with fate was never a one-sided game. While enduring Ronan's increasingly intense protective instincts, she secretly gathered her strength, waiting for the moment that would utterly shock the entire kingdom. The forbidden bond between partners was both a shackle and her most powerful weapon for a counterattack. The mask of the weak will eventually fall. When her true power erupts, all the forces manipulating the prophecy will pay a bitter price for their schemes today. This is the iron law of survival, and the only glimmer of light that true love can wrest from fate. Friends, if you've also been captivated by this heart-pounding, tear-jerking, and thrilling forbidden tale of a werewolf alpha, remember to follow and like this post. Let's witness together how Ella turns her fate around. Feel free to tell me in the comments, when are you most looking forward to her unleashing her true power? Will she shock Ronan right away, or will she first tear apart those conspiratorial forces? Every single comment from you is my greatest support. Stay tuned for more high-octane action in the next chapter. On the night following the assassination attempt, the atmosphere at Moonshadow Palace grew even more oppressive and tense. The brazier inside the tent crackled as it burned, its orange, red flames dancing and casting a glow on Ronan's angular face. He personally wiped the blood from Ella's face with a warm, damp cloth. His movements seemed rough, yet they were marked by a rare restraint. The fabric's friction against her skin brought a tingle of warmth, mixed with a slight sting. When Ronan's fingertips occasionally brushed her cheek, their scorching heat seeped into her flesh like a brand, causing her to shiver involuntarily. "Don't move." His voice was hoarse, commanding yet tinged with concern, his amber eyes fixed intently on her. "The blood of those traitors is unworthy of staining you. From now on, I will not let you out of my sight for a single moment." Ella lowered her eyelids. Tears still clung to her long lashes, her voice as faint as a candle flickering in the wind. "Your Majesty, you were injured because of me. I truly feel so heartbroken. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have to face so much doubt." She placed her hand gently on Ronan's chest, clearly feeling his strong heartbeat, steady and powerful yet slightly faster than usual. The unique body heat and scent of that alpha male completely enveloped her, causing a faint tightening in her lower abdomen and a sensation of tiny electric currents running across her skin. Yet inside, her mind raced. The more he protects me, the more desperate those factions will become, and I can use this to uncover all the hidden plots. The next morning, all the key figures gathered once more in the palace council chamber. Sunlight streamed through the high windows, yet it could not dispel the tension in the air. Ronan sat on the throne, the wound on his shoulder still oozing blood. The bandages gave off a faint medicinal scent. His large hand gripped Ella's wrist so tightly that her bones tingled, yet it also gave her a strange sense of security. Kelvin burst in with several lieutenants, his armor still stained with last night's dust and blood. He knelt on one knee, his voice brimming with defiance. "Your Majesty, the rebellion in the east is a fait accompli. We must deploy our forces immediately. Yet you keep a woman of unknown origin by your side. The warriors of the pack need a clear-headed king, not an alpha controlled by the bond of a mate." A murmur of agreement rippled through the hall, accompanied by the clatter of boots, scraping the floor and weapons clanging against one another. Ronan's mother, the widow of the old alpha, sat in a side seat and spoke coldly. "Son, the Pureblood Act must pass. The pack cannot be divided over a weak outsider. If you insist on protecting her, don't blame us for turning our backs on you." Ella knelt at Ronan's feet, her body trembling slightly on purpose, tears streaming down her cheeks, their salty taste spreading across her lips. She raised her head, her voice choked with sobs, yet every word striking a chord. "Your Majesty, Ella is not worth you quarreling with your family and subjects over me. If my presence destabilizes the pack, I am willing to—" Before she could finish, Ronan abruptly cut her off, pressing his large hand onto her shoulder as his voice thundered through the hall. "Enough. Ella is my mate. Anyone who dares question this again, I will regard as a traitor. The pureblood act is suspended. I will personally handle matters in the east. After the meeting, Ronan took her back to the bedchamber. The moment the heavy door closed, he pinned her down on the soft bed, his broad chest completely covering her slender frame. His lips brushed against her ear, his hot breath sending shivers down her spine as he growled. Do you think you can just leave whenever you please? Your scent, your tears, every tremor of yours. I'm already addicted to them, Ella. Don't test my limits any further. Ella wrapped her arms around his neck, her fingertips digging into the muscles of his back as she felt the strength of his powerful frame. Her voice trembled. Your Majesty, I'm just afraid that one day you'll discover that I'm actually unworthy of you. Yet inside, her mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. Carry on. Let the rift within the pack grow wider. Let all the conspiratorial factions believe I am nothing more than a weakness to be exploited. When the time is right, I will show them my true self. The actions of the Council of Sorceresses were accelerating in secret. Through a lady-in-waiting, they sent another gift, a seemingly ordinary necklace that actually concealed a potent awakening potion. When Ella put it on alone late at night, the potion's effects surged through her like a tidal wave. Her meridians felt as if they were being filled with lava. The searing pain made her curl up on the floor, the cold, hard stone against her cheek creating a stark contrast. Sweat soaked through her clothes, sticky and cold. She bit her lip. The rusty taste of blood spread through her mouth. Yet she suppressed every sound with all her might. Hold on, the power is growing, she repeated silently in her mind, as faint blue sparks of magic unconsciously flared from her fingertips, illuminating the dark corners. The rebel leader had sent new intelligence via another secret passage. Kelvin had been fully turned, and a full-scale assault would be launched during Ronan's next patrol. They promised that, if successful, Ella would gain her freedom and her share of the eternal power. Ella tucked the intelligence away. The rough edges of the paper scraped against her skin, causing a faint sting outwardly. She continued to serve with feigned fragility, but in secret she began to release small bursts of magic, testing her limits. Meanwhile, the shadow hands spread more rumors among the nobles. At a banquet, with flickering candlelight and the aroma of wine filling the air, one noble deliberately mentioned to Ronan, Your Majesty, is Miss Ella's background truly unblemished? Rumors in the border villages claim she is the vessel of the weak foretold in the prophecy. Ronan flew into a rage on the spot, his wolf claws tearing through the tablecloth, the sound of splintering wood piercing the air. Ella knelt beside him, trembling with fear on the surface, yet secretly observing the subtle expressions on every face. The tug of war of emotions and the intrigues of pack politics were becoming increasingly intertwined. Ronan's possessiveness toward her grew stronger, yet he also began to reveal a vulnerable side. One late night, he held her close and whispered, Ella, I dreamt of losing you. That pain is worse than any knife wound. Tell me you won't betray me. Ella buried her face against his chest, listening to his powerful heartbeat, as tears fell silently. Your Majesty, I will always, always be yours. Yet deep inside, she saw it with growing clarity. The game of fate had reached a critical juncture. She must find the path between truth and deception that could completely turn the tables. Conflict is brewing like a storm, and all factions are waiting for the next flashpoint. Ella knows her disguise is nearing its limit, and the moment she truly unleashes her power, the entire kingdom will be shaken to its core. Friends, this forbidden tale of a werewolf alpha and a seemingly weak female lead is getting more and more thrilling. Every heart-pounding moment and plot twist leaves you hooked. If you love this tug of war between fate and emotional climaxes, be sure to follow and share with your friends so we can all keep up with this fantasy world full of thrills and heartbreak. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. How do you think Ella should strike back next? Should she first exploit Kelvin's betrayal or directly reveal a glimpse of her true power to Ronan? Your ideas will influence the direction of our story. Stay tuned for even more intense, high-stakes conflict in the next chapter. In the tense days following the assassination attempt, every corridor of Moonlight Palace seemed to harbor invisible eyes and sharp blades. And Ella Ravencroft felt as though she were standing on a tightrope that was constantly being pulled tighter. Ronan's protective instincts wrapped around her like a net that grew ever tighter. That afternoon, slanting sunlight streamed into the study. The oak desk was piled high with military dispatches and scrolls, and the musty scent of ink and parchment filled the air. He pulled her onto his lap, his towering frame like a scorching mountain face, the heat from his rising chest washing over her back in waves. His rough palm slowly traced its way up from her waist. His fingertips brushed against the fabric, sending waves of tingling sensation and pressure through her, causing her breathing to become uncontrollably ragged. Those traitors who think they can hurt you will pay with their blood. Ronan's deep voice echoed in her ear, his hot breath spraying the side of her neck, making her skin tighten. From now on, you are to stay only by my side. Anyone who dares to approach you, I will tear them to pieces. Ella's body trembled slightly, and she deliberately let a sob creep into her voice. Your Majesty, if you protect me like this, the people in the pack will hate me even more. I'm afraid of becoming a burden to you. Her fingers unconsciously clenched his shirt collar. She could feel the powerful rhythm of his heartbeat, each beat pounding against her palm like a war drum urging on some dangerous desire. Deep down, however, she was calmly weaving her own web. The stronger his possessiveness, the more those hidden forces would be eager to act, and I could use their very hands to weaken his absolute control. The next move by the Council of Sorceresses came as silently as it was cruel. Through a bribed court physician, they laced Ronan's medicinal ointment with a trace of wolf-suppressing powder. The following morning, as Ronan swung his sword on the training grounds, his movements suddenly faltered. Cold sweat beaded on his forehead, and a rare look of confusion flashed across his amber eyes. Ella knelt beside him, tending to him, and witnessed firsthand how the force of his swing weakened noticeably as he split a stone pillar with his sword. The sound of flying stone chips was jarring, and the smell of dust choked her. She hurried forward, pressing her soft body against his arm, her voice trembling. Your Majesty, does your injury still hurt? Let me take a look. Ronan frowned and pushed her away, only to pull her back into his arms immediately, his voice hoarse. I'm fine, I just didn't sleep well last night. But Ella caught the faint scent of medicine mixed with sweat on him, and knew the priestess's plan had already been set in motion. They intended to make the strongest alpha reveal a weakness at a critical moment, then use the name of prophecy to topple him from the throne. The collaboration between the rebels and the Shadow Hand was even more brazen. Ella had caught Kelvin during a private meeting. He'd cornered her in a secluded corridor, the cold metal of his armor pressing against her shoulder, sending a bone-chilling chill through her. His voice was hushed, yet laced with naked menace. Little handmaiden, the Eastern Army is already gathering. Ronan's next inspection tour will be his death knell. You'd best cooperate with us. Otherwise, once we seize power, the first thing we'll do is toss you into the lair of the cursed beasts and let the magic burn you alive. Ella lowered her head, tears plopping onto the stone floor, her voice a faint whisper. I'll do whatever you say. I only beg you to spare His Majesty. Yet her fingers clenched secretly within her sleeve, a thread of magic gathering in her palm, flickering like a tiny flame, and bringing a sensation of burning heat and excitement. The rift within the pack finally erupted completely in public. 3 days later, in the hall where the Pure Blood Bill was being debated, the mixture of smoke from burning torches and the expensive perfumes worn by the nobles made the air stifling. Ronan's mother stood up in front of everyone, her voice sharp as a knife. Son, if you insist on not passing this bill, it's tantamount to admitting that woman's control over you. The pack's future cannot be destroyed by a mate bond. Kelvin immediately chimed in, slamming his fist on the table's edge. The sound of splintering wood echoed through the hall. "Your Majesty, our warriors are already shedding blood at the border. Yet you've devoted all your energy to a weakling. We demand an immediate investigation into her identity." A commotion erupted in the hall. The scraping of chairs, the clanging of weapons, and angry growls all mingled into a chaotic din. Ronan sprang to his feet, his towering figure casting a deep shadow as a wolfish aura surged forth like a tidal wave, thickening the air until it felt heavy and oppressive. His large hands gripped Ella's shoulders tightly, his knuckles pressed so hard they made her shoulder bones ache faintly. Yet they also allowed her to feel his current rage and inner turmoil. "Enough," Ronan roared, like thunder. "Ella is mine. If anyone mentions an investigation again, I will slaughter everyone in this council chamber right here." Ella knelt at his feet, tears pouring out like a burst dam. Her body trembled like a leaf in the wind, yet her voice carried a barely perceptible hint of guidance amidst her sobs. "Your Majesty, please don't hurt everyone for my sake. Ella is so afraid that you'll lose the entire pack because of me." In that moment, the look in Ronan's eyes, as he looked down at her, was as complex as the sea in a storm. A mix of possession, suspicion, and a tenderness even he couldn't quite define. That night, the bedchamber became the scene of their most intense emotional struggle. The candlelight flickered dimly as Ronan pinned her to the bed, his broad, scorching body completely enveloping her. The pungent scent of sweat mingled with his masculine scent filled her nostrils. His lips pressed against the side of her neck, rough yet trembling, and the light bite of his teeth sent a sharp tingling pain through her. He growled, "Ella, what exactly are you hiding? Why is it that the more I want to protect you, the more I feel like you're dragging me into the abyss?" Ella wrapped her arms around his neck, her fingertips digging into the muscles of his back, feeling the knotted strength and faint tremors. Tears welled in the corners of her eyes as her voice broke. "Your Majesty, I only want to be with you forever, no matter what happens." Yet inside her, a cold flame burned. The time was nearly ripe. All the conspiracies, all the rifts, will become the fuel for my awakening. When I no longer hide behind a mask, the shock of that moment will make the entire kingdom tremble. The conflict has reached a critical point. The sorceress's treachery, the rebels' blades, the shadow hand's rumors, and betrayal from within the pack all point toward a single goal: to tear them apart and destroy Ronan. And Ella knows that the mask of weakness she has worn is about to shatter. Her true power will erupt like a volcano, rewriting every prophecy. Friends, the emotional turmoil and multi-layered intrigues in this forbidden werewolf alpha story are becoming increasingly gripping. Every twist is packed with heart-pounding moments and tear-jerking scenes. If you love this thrilling blend of fate and revenge, be sure to follow and save this story. Let's finish this high-octane series together. Tell me in the comments, how do you most want to see Ella reveal her true power for the first time? Will she shock the entire crowd in public, or will she first unveil her true self to Ronan? Your support is my greatest motivation to keep writing. In the next chapter, we'll dive straight into the most intense climax. On the eve of the border patrol, a few days later, candlelight flickered within the bedchamber, and the air was thick with the scent of herbs and Ronan's intense masculine aura. Ronan pulled her into his embrace, his tall, burning body pressed tightly against her back, like a moving wall of fire. His arms wrapped around her waist from behind, his rough palms caressing her soft skin through the thin fabric. Each stroke sent shivers of electric tingling through her, causing her to arch her back involuntarily. His hot breath brushed against the back of her ear as his voice, low and hoarse, carried a suppressed fury. "Tomorrow we patrol the east. I'll keep you in the safest place in the palace. If those traitors dare lay a finger on you, I'll slaughter the entire tribe." Ella turned around, pressing her slender fingers gently against his chest. She could feel the powerful thud of his heart and the tautness of his muscles. She let tears well up in her eyes, her voice soft enough to melt. "Your Majesty, please don't leave me behind. I'm afraid that if you're not by my side, those officials will harm me. I want to stay with you, even if it's just kneeling outside your tent to keep watch." Ronan's amber eyes narrowed. His wolfish instincts made him growl as he pressed her closer, his teeth gently biting her shoulder, delivering a sharp yet sweet sting. "You little thing, you always distract me. But fine, I'll take you, remember. Don't leave my side for a moment." His fingers dug into the soft flesh of her waist, the pressure so firm it left red marks, yet it also made her lower abdomen tighten. That forbidden bond between them burned like a flame. Deep down, however, Ella was calculating rapidly. This is my chance. Kelvin's betrayal will be fully exposed during the patrol, and I can use this opportunity to observe Ronan's reaction once his wolfish nature is suppressed, while also luring the Shaman Council's hidden hand into revealing itself. On the day of the patrol, the eastern dense forest was shrouded in a thin mist. The rustling of leaves mingled with the dampness of the earth and the distant growls of beasts. Ronan rode a black horse, while Ella was placed in a carriage right next to him. As the carriage jolted, the vibrations from the wooden planks traveled through her body, sending a shiver down her spine with every bump. Outwardly, her face was pale and her hands clutched the hem of her skirt. But in reality, she was secretly sensing the flow of magic all around her. Suddenly, a violent commotion erupted from the thicket ahead. The guard led by Kelvin charged out first, only to instantly turn and attack Ronan's personal guards. The crisp clang of clashing blades, the dull crack of bones snapping as werewolves shifted, and the hot, rusty scent of spurting blood instantly filled the forest. Ronan leapt from his horse with a furious roar. In his wolf form, his silver fur glinted as his claws sliced through the air, and he lunged at Kelvin. "Traitor, how dare you!" After transforming, Kelvin's muscles bulged as he snarled with a savage grin. "Your Majesty, you've been bewitched by that woman. The Pureblood Council has decided. Your reign is over." The two colossal wolves grappled, the sound of claws tearing flesh bloody and brutal, as drops of blood fell onto the fallen leaves with a faint plip. Plop, Ella tumbled from the carriage and deliberately threw herself into the mud. The cold, slippery earth coated her hands and knees, sending a bone-chilling chill through her. She screamed, "Your Majesty, be careful. Don't get hurt because of me." Just then, a spy from the Council of Witches emerged from the shadows, firing a black beam of cursed energy straight at Ronan's back. Ella's fingertips twitched slightly, and a thread of long-suppressed magic was quietly released, deflecting the beam like a sliver of blue lightning. Sensing something amiss, Ronan spun around and tore the spy to pieces with a single swipe of his claw. Warm blood spattered across her face. The sticky, scorching sensation made her heart race. At that very moment, the noble informants of the Shadow Hand also sprang into action. Shouting the slogan, "Protect the Purebloods," they attempted to surround and attack Ronan. In the forest, the clamor of battle cries, the howls of wolves, and the whistling of arrows cutting through the air blended into a single cacophony. The air was thick with the stench of blood, sweat, and the acrid smell of burning magic. Ronan fought while shielding Ella behind him. His wolfish form was scorching and powerful. The fur brushing against her skin offered a strange comfort. Yet she could also sense his strength being suppressed and slowly sapped. Each swipe of his claws was half a beat slower than usual. As the battle reached a fever pitch, Ronan suddenly turned to her and growled, "Ella, get behind me." His voice carried an urgency she'd never heard before, and a flicker of vulnerability passed through his amber eyes. Ella knelt in the mud, tears mingling with blood as they streamed down her face. Outwardly, she cried out for him to be careful, but inside, a complex wave of emotion surged. His protection felt so real, yet the game of fate had already reached this point. "I can't hide completely anymore. But it's not time to fully unleash my power just yet. Taking advantage of the chaos, the rebel leader appeared, his voice booming like thunder. Ronan, your mate is the vessel of the weak foretold in the prophecy. Kill her, and we'll spare your life. He lunged at Ella, his claws whipping through the air with a stench of blood. Ella let out a deliberate scream, but at the last moment, she channeled magic into her palms, forming an extremely thin barrier that blocked the fatal blow. Ronan, enraged, tore the leader to pieces. Warm blood rained down, staining her dress crimson. After the battle ended, Ronan shifted back into human form and held her tightly in his arms. His chest heaved violently, a mixture of sweat and blood, his scorching body heat nearly burning her skin. Ella, are you all right? His voice was hoarse, tinged with a rare tremor, as his large hands stroked her back over and over, as if to confirm she was still alive. Ella buried her face in the crook of his neck, her tears soaking his skin, her voice breaking. Your Majesty, I'm so afraid of losing you. Those people said I was a vessel, but I really didn't know anything. Yet deep within her heart, she was as resolute as a flame. The conspiracy had been fully exposed, and the rift within the pack could never be mended. My power was on the verge of awakening. Soon, all the manipulators would regret their schemes. The tug of war between true love and destiny was never a one-sided shackle, but rather the sharpest blade for my counterattack. This bloody battle during the inspection tour shook the entire kingdom. Ronan's protection of her had become completely public, yet it also drove all the hidden factions to desperate measures. Ella understood that the climactic turning point was just around the corner. Her true power was about to erupt like a volcano, shaking the entire Moonshadow Kingdom to its core. Friends, the pack politics, and emotional turmoil in this forbidden werewolf alpha story have reached their most thrilling phase. Every life or death moment is enough to make your blood boil. If you're captivated by Ella's resilience and Ronan's possessiveness, remember to follow, like, and share with your friends so we can all experience the thrill of this twist of fate together. Let me know in the comments, how do you think Ella will test her strength in the next crisis? Will she save Ronan from danger, or will she first secretly dismantle a rival faction? Your thoughts will fuel my creativity. In the next chapter, we're charging straight toward the climactic twist. Stay tuned. As she surveyed the palace in the aftermath of the bloody battle, the atmosphere was as heavy as storm clouds before a tempest. Every shadow seemed to harbor a new scheme. Ella Ravencroft felt a surge of hidden magic with every breath she took, yet she kept it firmly suppressed deep within herself. As Ronan carried her back to the bedchamber, the corridor echoed with the hurried footsteps of guards and hushed whispers. The door to the bedchamber slammed shut, the heavy oak wood emitting a dull thud that sealed out the outside commotion. Inside, the flickering candlelight cast long, dancing shadows upon the stone walls. The air was thick with the rusty scent of blood, the bitterness of herbs, and the intense, masculine scent of Ronan's sweat. He laid her gently on the bed, his towering frame leaning down over her. His broad chest rose and fell as he pressed close, his scorching body heat enveloping her slender form like a furnace. His fingers, rough yet gentle, wiped the mud and blood from her face. A suppressed tremor ran through his movements, and each touch sent a fine shiver through her skin. Those traitors, they dared to lay a hand on you right in front of me. Ronan's voice was low and hoarse, like a muffled thunderclap forced from the depths of his chest, his hot breath washing over her forehead. Ella, did you see the madness in Kelvin's eyes? He thought he could use the prophecy to tear the pack apart, but he doesn't know that I would rather destroy everything than let you suffer, even the slightest harm. Ella lifted her tear-filled eyes, droplets hanging from her long lashes. She let her body tremble slightly, her voice soft and trembling with sobs. Your Majesty, I'm so afraid that what those people said is true, that I really am some kind of vessel that will bring disaster upon you. If I leave, you'll be able to handle the pack's affairs with peace of mind. Her palm rested on his wounded shoulder. She could feel warm blood seeping through the gauze. The sticky, scorching sensation spread between her fingers, causing her heart to clench. Ronan's muscles tensed instantly. He grabbed her wrist so hard it nearly crushed her bones. Yet he quickly softened his grip and growled, "Don't talk nonsense. You are mine. From the moment I picked you up from the hall, you have belonged only to me. No prophecy, no conspiracy will ever tear us apart." Yet her inner world was like a hidden current beneath a calm lake. The more sincere his words, the more frenzied the counterattack from those forces would be. And I could use this very opportunity to further awaken my magic in secret. The Witch Council's retaliation came swiftly and covertly. Late into the following night, a seemingly loyal lady in waiting brought a sleep-inducing potion. An eerie silver glow shimmered on the surface of the liquid, which emitted a sickly sweet yet pungent medicinal scent. When Ella took the bowl, the heat from the rim made her instinctively wary. She pretended to drink it obediently, but in reality, she used a thread of magic in her throat to neutralize most of the potion's potency. When the potion took effect, it felt like countless ice needles piercing her meridians. A chill spread from her stomach to her limbs. She curled up in the corner of the bed, the silk sheets cold and clammy against her sweat-soaked skin, her teeth clenched so tightly they ground together with a faint grinding sound. Magic boiled within her like a backlash, and visions of her childhood village on the border flashed before her eyes. Scenes of the elders whispering the prophecy. The weak survive, the strong are sacrificed. Visually distorted shadows left her dizzy and disoriented. "Hold on," she silently repeated to herself. "This small price is worth it to see the flaws in their sacrificial ritual." At the same time, the shadow hand launched a new round of manipulation through Ronan's mother. The old lady summoned Ella late at night. In a private chamber, dim candlelight cast a glow on her wrinkled yet sharp-featured face. The room was stiflingly thick with the scent of rose perfume, mingled with the musty odor of aged parchment. She grabbed Ella's arm, her nails digging into the skin with a sharp sting. "You little slut, did you hear what those rebels were saying during your patrol? The pure blood bill must pass tomorrow, or I'll personally send you on your way with the Shadow Hand's poison needle. The pack doesn't need a weakling, like you dragging my son down." Ella knelt on the floor, her knees grinding painfully against the cold stone slab, tears streaming down her face. "Madam, I understand. I won't put His Majesty in a difficult position." As she left, several hidden red marks appeared on her arm. The pain served as a reminder that time was running out. Meanwhile, remnants of the rebels were gathering new forces at the border, passing plans through secret messages. At the next pack assembly, they would publicly accuse Ronan of being manipulated by his mate's magic and demand their forced separation. Ella deliberately approached Ronan while he was training. She saw with her own eyes that his movements were slightly sluggish as he swung his sword, a lingering effect of the suppressant. His stifled growl mingled with the crackling sound of the wooden post splitting under his blade. She threw herself forward, pressing her soft body against his arm. "Your Majesty, you're tired. Let me wipe the sweat from your brow." Ronan turned his head. A weary yet tender light flashed in his amber eyes. He placed his large hand on the back of her head, pulling her into his embrace, his voice hoarse. "Ella, with you here, I feel my strength remains. But those shadows are drawing closer. You really know nothing." The emotional tension reached a new peak at this moment. That night in the bedchamber, Ronan's desire, mingled with a protective instinct, erupted completely. He pinned her beneath him, his broad, scorching chest pressed tightly against hers. Sweat trickled down his muscular frame, dripping onto her skin and leaving a burning, damp sensation. His lips pressed roughly against her collarbone. The light bite of his teeth sent a shiver of pain and pleasure coursing through her. A hoarse voice echoed in her ear. "Tell me the truth, Ella. I can feel something inside you calling to me. That bond between mates keeps me awake at night." Ella wrapped her arms around his neck, her fingertips digging into his back muscles, feeling the faint tremor beneath that knotted strength. Her voice was broken and tearful. "Your Majesty, I just want you to protect me, never to wake up." Tears slid down, soaking the pillow, their salty taste spreading across her lips. Yet her mind was as clear as a drawn blade. The limits of her disguise were nearing. The pack assembly was about to convene. All factions would be present. At that moment, she must test her power, allowing Ronan to glimpse a shred of the truth without fully revealing herself. The price of destiny was pain, but the union of true love and counterattack was the only way to shatter the prophecy. A few days later, the pack assembly convened in the royal palace's grand hall. Torches stood tall within the hall, the crackling of flames intertwining with the whispers of nobles. The air was so thick it was suffocating. Ronan sat upon the throne, with Ella kneeling at his feet, seemingly fragile and trembling, yet inwardly ready to face the storm. Remnants of Kelvin's faction, spies from the priestesses, and nobles of the Shadow Hand all spoke out in turn, their voices growing increasingly strident as accusations surged like a tidal wave. Ronan's wolfish nature was fully aroused. He sprang to his feet, his presence as imposing as a mountain. "Whoever dares lay a hand on Ella is my enemy." Just as the conflict was about to reach a fever pitch, Ella's fingertips moved silently. A wafer, thin barrier of magic shielded Ronan from the shadows, deflecting a hidden poisoned arrow. Only she heard the faint hum as the arrow struck the invisible barrier, and a surge of excitement welled up within her. The first counterattack has begun. Amid the heated conflict at the pack assembly, the flames of the torches in the great hall flickered violently, casting long, distorted shadows that danced between the stone columns. The air was thick with the scent of nervous sweat, the acrid smell of burning resin, and the mingled fragrances of the nobles' perfumes. Ronan stood before the throne, his towering figure looming over the assembly like a mountain. His wolfish aura was so intense that those around him instinctively stepped back. Ella knelt at his feet, her knees pressed against the cold, hard stone floor, causing waves of numb, stinging pain. Her body trembled slightly, tears streaming down her cheeks, their salty taste seeping into the corners of her lips. A beta lord from the remnants of the Kelvin faction suddenly stepped forward, his voice echoing like thunder through the hall. "Your Majesty, we have proof that this woman is the vessel of the weak one foretold in the prophecy. Her very presence is draining your Majesty's power. The pack can no longer tolerate such a forbidden bond. The pure blood act must be passed immediately. She must be expelled or sacrificed." Other nobles chimed in unison, the scraping of chairs, the dull thud of fists pounding tables, and low growls blended into a cacophony, the tension in the air nearly solidifying into a tangible substance. Ronan's mother spoke coldly from her seat on the side, her fingertips tapping the armrest in a crisp yet jarring rhythm. "Son, wake up. The Hand of Shadows has already secured intelligence from the border. The magic within her is quietly awakening. If you do not act, the pack will split apart completely." Ronan's amber eyes narrowed, and a suppressed growl rumbled in his chest. His large hands clamped tightly around Ella's shoulders. The grip was so heavy it made her shoulder blades ache. Yet it also conveyed a burning warmth of protection. "Whoever dares touch her, I'll turn this entire hall into a river of blood. Ella is my mate. Her vulnerability only makes me want to protect her more, not doubt her." Ella lifted her head, her tear-filled eyes brimming with helpless vulnerability. Her voice trembled with a hint of sobs. "Your Majesty, please don't make me an enemy of everyone. Ella truly knows nothing. I'm just a pitiful handmaiden picked up from the border. If my presence unsettles the pack, I'm willing to disappear." Her fingers clenched silently beneath her skirt as a thread of magic, as fine as a warm current, coursed through her veins, bringing a tingling, burning sensation. Yet inside, a storm raged. The time had come. She could no longer hide completely. She would let them glimpse a sliver of the truth, deepening both Ronan's suspicion and his reliance on her. Just as a nobleman secretly fired a second poisoned arrow, Ella's fingertips twitched slightly, and a blue membrane of magic invisible to the naked eye silently unfurled behind Ronan. The arrow struck the barrier with a faint hum perceptible only to her and Ronan. The arrow veered off course and embedded itself in a stone pillar. The crisp crack of splintering wood startled the entire hall. Ronan spun around abruptly, his wolf claws snapping out to tear through the nobleman's robes. The wet, hot, rusty scent of spurting blood filled the air instantly. "You!" Ronan's roar shook the hall's dome, sending dust cascading down. "You dare poison me right before my eyes? Speak, who ordered you to do this?" Amid the chaos, a spy from the Council of Sorceresses seized the opportunity to chant a low curse. Black, cursed smoke rose from the ground, coiling like tentacles around Ronan's legs. The smoke carried a pungent, putrid stench and delivered a cold, searing sensation upon contact with the skin. Ronan's body visibly faltered. The lingering effects of the suppression powder slowed his movements by a split second, and his knees hit the ground with a heavy thud. Ella screamed and lunged forward, using her own body to shield Ronan. She deliberately let the smoke brush against her arm. Her skin instantly swelled with red blisters, and pain like fire shot through her nerves. She cried out, "Your Majesty, don't worry about me, you must flee." But in that moment, she unleashed more of her long-suppressed magic, and a soft yet resilient blue light shield unfolded around them, deflecting the cursed smoke entirely. The shield emitted a faint humming as it flickered, appearing dreamlike yet carrying devastating power. Ronan's eyes widened suddenly. Shock and complex emotions flashed through his amber pupils. His strong arms pulled her into his embrace, his burning chest pressed tightly against her back, his voice hoarse and nearly breaking. "Ella, is this your power?" The entire arena fell instantly silent, then erupted into an even greater uproar. The witch spies screamed, "She's been exposed. The prophecy has begun. Sacrifice her." Remnants of the rebel forces and nobles of the Shadow Hand drew their weapons in unison. The sharp clang of blades leaving their sheaths rang out in succession, the air thick with the scent of gunpowder and the intent to kill. But Ronan did not let go. His wolfish nature had fully awakened. He shifted into a half-wolf form, his muscular arms shielding Ella completely. The rough yet reassuring sensation of his fur brushing against her skin was comforting. He growled, "No matter what you've been hiding, Ella, you are mine. Anyone who dares take a single step closer, I'll tear their throat apart." Ella buried her face in the crook of his scorching neck. Tears mixed with sweat trickled down her cheeks, and her voice, though broken, carried a hint of the resolve born of her awakening. "Your Majesty, I didn't mean to hide it. I was just afraid of being eliminated as a threat. I suppressed this power just to survive." Yet within her heart surged an unprecedented surge of exhilaration and pain. "At last, I've shown a glimpse of my true power. Ronan's shock will make him rely on me even more, while throwing those conspiratorial forces into utter chaos. The tug-of-war of fate has never been a one-sided tragedy. Rather, it marks the beginning of my reversal of the game. True love can shatter prophecies, but only the strong can hold on to that love." The battle in the Great Hall was about to erupt. Ronan retreated while fighting, holding Ella close. The sound of his claws tearing through enemies was brutal and bloody. Warm blood splattered onto them constantly, its sticky, scorching sensation filling her with both fear and excitement. The priestess's curses, the rebels' wolf pack attacks, and the noble's poisoned arrows wove a net. Yet it was quietly dismantled by the subtle magic Ella released from time to time. This pack gathering became a turning point. Ella's true power shocked Ronan for the first time, and revealed to the entire kingdom the sharp edge hidden behind the weak. The forbidden bond between them grew ever more intense amidst blood and magic. as emotional turmoil and power struggles were about to reach a new climax. Friends, the emotional outbursts and awakening of power in this fantasy werewolf alpha story are truly thrilling. Every sensory detail and inner conflict strikes right at the heart. If you're captivated by Ella's quiet resilience and Ronan's domineering protection, remember to follow, like, and share. Let's experience this healing yet thrilling journey of destiny together. Tell me in the comments, what psychological shift do you most want to see in Ronan after he discovers Ella's power? Will he furiously chase after her, or will he immediately submit to protect her? Your support will keep me bringing you even more thrilling climaxes. In the next chapter, we'll dive straight into the climactic turning point. As chaos erupted at the pack assembly, the flames in the great hall flickered even more violently, like countless angry eyes watching this fated clash. The acrid smell of burning magic mingled with the rusty scent of blood, while shards of broken weapons and shredded robes littered the stone floor. Ronan, in his half-wolf form, stood like a steel fortress shielding Ella. His claws sliced through the air with a sharp whistling sound. With every swing, a warm shower of blood sprayed onto Ella's face and arms. The sticky, scorching sensation made her skin tighten in waves, and her heart pounded in her ears like thunder. On the surface, Ella remained kneeling, her body trembling like a withered leaf in the wind. Tears streamed down her face in large drops, their salty, blood-tinged taste seeping into the corners of her mouth. She cried out, "Your Majesty, please stop, it's all my fault. I don't want to see you bleed for me." Her voice was so fragile it broke the heart, yet beneath her skirt her fingertips were quietly gathering more magic. That power surged through her veins, as scorching and explosive as molten lava. With every pulse, a tingling sensation, both painful and exhilarating, shot straight to her tailbone. Taking advantage of the chaos, a witch spy rushed forward. Her gaunt fingers formed a black curse seal, and a low chant echoed through the hall like the whisper of a vengeful spirit. "Vessel of the weak, sacrifice your blood, awaken the prophecy." A thick black beam shot straight toward Ela, carrying a pungent stench of decay and the icy breath of death. Ronan roared as he lunged forward to block it. As the beam grazed his wolfish form, it emitted a sizzling sound of seared flesh. An instant later, a gash deep enough to expose bone appeared on his shoulder, blood gushing forth so scalding it seemed to burn the very air. In that very instant, Ella could no longer fully suppress her power. She jerked her head up, a sharp blue flash flickered deep within her watery eyes. With a light tap of her fingertip, a blue magical barrier, stronger than before, erupted with a thunderous roar. The barrier rippled like water yet was incredibly resilient, completely deflecting the cursed beam back. The beam struck the witch's spy, producing a dull crack of shattering bones and a scream of agony. The figure was sent flying backward, crashing heavily into a stone pillar, the sound of spurting blood both jarring and gruesome. The entire hall fell silent for a single second, then erupted into even louder gasps and chaos. Ronan turned to look at her, his amber eyes filled with shock, anger, and a hint of uncontrollable complex emotion. His wolfish form was still heaving violently, his fur stained with the enemy's blood. A rough paw gently pressed against her shoulder, the touch trembling with emotion. "Ella, you've been hiding this power all along. Why didn't you tell me? Do you have any idea? I almost thought I couldn't protect a weakling, yet I let you bear all this alone." Ella lifted her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. She deliberately let her voice tremble with sobs, yet her words carried a hint of the resolve born of her awakening. "Your Majesty, I was afraid that once you knew, you would see me as a threat and eliminate me, just as the prophecy foretold. I buried my power deep within, just to survive, just to get close to you, to break this damned curse of fate. Those factions, they treated me as a pawn from the very beginning, implanting magic and manipulating the prophecy. all to force a flaw into your bond as partners, so they could divide the eternal power among themselves. Yet inside her, a wild surge of relief and agony raged. I finally said it. This isn't complete exposure, but a crack through which Ronan can see the truth. His shock will turn into deeper reliance, and those conspiratorial forces are already in a complete panic. Seeing the situation turn against them, the nobles of the Shadow Hand immediately shouted and launched an assault. She's a fake weakling. Kill her. Only purebloods can carry on the line. They drew the poisoned blades hidden beneath their robes, the blades glinting with a cold green light under the torches, and charged at the two. The remnants of the rebel forces also shifted into wolf forms, their claws scraping the ground with a shrill screech as they growled and pounced. The air thick with the stench of blood and the scent of murder. Ronan shielded Ella behind him as his wolfish nature erupted completely. His massive frame charged into the enemy ranks like a whirlwind. The sound of his claws tearing flesh was bloody and brutal, and every impact sent tremors through the ground. Blood spattered onto Ella, and the warm, sticky sensation made her lower abdomen tighten. That forbidden bond between them grew ever stronger, like a fire burning in her blood. She was no longer entirely passive. Instead, she secretly released a thread of magic. Strands of blue light quietly wrapped around the enemy's legs, instantly freezing their movements and creating openings for Ronan. "Ella, get back," Ronan growled, turning his head. His hoarse voice carried an unprecedented tenderness and urgency. His wolf's claws swept aside a rebel lunging at her. As blood spattered, he immediately shielded her with his body, his broad, scorching chest pressed tightly against her back. His masculine scent completely enveloped her, making every inch of her skin tense. Ella buried her face in the thick fur at his neck, her tears soaking his coat. Her voice was broken but resolute. "Your Majesty, I will not hide anymore. This power is so that we may both survive. I know the Council of Sorceresses wants to use my blood to awaken the cursed beast. The rebels want to split the pack to seize power, and the Hand of Shadows wants to manipulate your mother to sow discord. But I won't let them succeed. True love is not a weakness. It can shatter the prophecy." Yanti Dawei. At that moment, Ronan's body visibly trembled. His wolf form relaxed slightly, yet he held her even tighter. A voice like an inner monologue seemed to ring in Ella's ears. This woman was never a plaything from the start. She was safeguarding this tug of war in the most dangerous way possible. The battle gradually subsided, and the remaining enemies were subdued by Ronan's personal guard. The great hall was in shambles, blood staining the stone floor, the air echoing with the moans of the wounded and the crackling of torches. Ronan shifted back into human form, his towering figure pulling Ella into his embrace. His palms were scorching and firm as he pressed them against her lower back. The pressure so intense it nearly took her breath away, yet it carried a profound sense of possession and awe. "Ella, from this day forward there will be no more hiding. You are my mate, and you are my strength. As for those forces manipulating the prophecy, I will tear them apart, one by one." Ella lifted her head and gazed into the flames burning in his amber eyes. Tears slid down her cheeks, yet a powerful sense of healing and relief welled up within her. His transformation had begun. From a cold-blooded alpha to a guardian willing to stand against the entire pack for her. This forbidden tug-of-war had finally borne the fruit of true love amidst the bloodshed. But the storm was not over. The true counterattack had only just begun. The turning point at this pack assembly sent shockwaves through the entire Moon Shadow Kingdom. A glimpse of Ella's true power had not only stunned Ronan, but also plunged all the hidden factions into panic. They had assumed the weak were easily manipulated pawns, never imagining that this pawn had long since sharpened its blade. The curse of fate began to crack under the collision of true love and power, while Ella's independent awakening proved, step by step, that feigned weakness would ultimately lead to the most dazzling explosion. Friends, the emotional climax and power reversal in this forbidden werewolf alpha romance are getting more and more intense. Every internal struggle and sensory clash is utterly addictive. If you love Ella's healing journey from resilience to awakening, and Ronan's protective pursuit of his beloved, remember to follow, like, and share with your friends. Let's immerse ourselves in this fantastical world together. Let me know in the comments, how are you most looking forward to Ella turning the tables on those conspiratorial forces? Will she team up with Ronan to wipe out the Council of Witches? Or will she first use her magic to expose the true face of the Shadow Hand? Every single comment is a show of support. And in the next chapter, we'll dive straight into the most intense plot twists and emotional outbursts. In the wake of the bloody turn of events at the Pack Assembly, the late night in the palace felt particularly oppressive and interminable. The guards had hastily cleared away the aftermath in the Great Hall. The bloodstains lingering on the floor glowed a dark red in the dim light of the torches, and the air was still thick with the pungent smell of rust, scorched magical residue, and sweat. As Ronan carried Ella back to the bedchamber, his stride was steady yet tinged with a barely perceptible stiffness. The shadow cast by his towering figure completely enveloped her. The heavy oak door emitted a dull thud as it closed, acting as a makeshift barrier that cut off the outside commotion. Inside, the flickering candlelight cast the overlapping shadows of the two of them dancing across the stone walls. Ronan set her down on the edge of the bed and knelt before her, his broad, scorching palm cupping her chin. The pressure was perfectly measured, yet she could still feel a faint, lingering pressure on the skin of her jaw. His amber eyes scrutinized her up close, the depths of his pupils churning with shock, anger, suspicion, and a deeper, more intense heat. "Ella, explain yourself." His voice was low and hoarse like long suppressed thunder, his hot breath brushing her lips. "Ever since I brought you back from the border, have you been putting on a show? The trembling, the tears, the vulnerability? Was it all a lie?" Ella lowered her eyelids. Her long lashes trembled slightly as she deliberately let tears well up in her eyes, sliding down her cheeks, their salty tastes seeping into the corners of her mouth. Her voice was soft yet carried a hint of the clarity that comes with awakening. "Your Majesty, not all of it was fake. I was indeed afraid of being seen as a threat and eliminated on the spot, afraid that the prophecy, 'the strong shall perish,' would come true for me. But I feared even more. I feared losing the chance to be near you. This power is a vessel implanted within me by the Council of Priestesses since childhood. I could only suppress it with all my might, making myself appear as harmless as a speck of dust. Only by doing so could I take one step at a time to reach this day and see the true face of all the conspiracies." Her finger pressed lightly against his chest. She could clearly feel his heart beating strongly yet slightly erratically. Where their skin touched, it felt as if an electric current had surged through her, sending a tingling shiver down her spine. Ronan's breathing grew noticeably heavier. His rough thumb brushed away the tear from the corner of her mouth, a gesture that seemed gentle but carried a possessive force. "Do you have any idea how close I was to losing my mind at the assembly? When I saw you use magic to block that poisoned arrow, that feeling hurt more than any knife wound. You treated me like an enemy who might kill you." But inside, Ella was as cool as a drawn blade. "His wavering is exactly what I need. Only when trust and suspicion coexist will he cling to me more tightly, while simultaneously hastening the collapse of those forces." She deliberately leaned forward, wrapping her slender arms around his neck, her fingertips digging into the muscles at the nape of his neck, feeling the knotted strength and slight tension. "Your Majesty, I have never regarded you as an enemy. From the moment you first shielded me on the throne, I knew this bond of companionship was not merely a curse. It pulls at me, and it pulls at you. We can shatter the prophecy together rather than be toyed with by it." Ronan growled, pressing her roughly onto the bed. His broad, scorching chest completely covered her, and the scent of a male alpha washed over her like a tide. The intense mingling of blood and sweat made her dizzy. His lips pressed roughly against the side of her neck. His gentle bite brought a sharp sting and a sweet tingling sensation. His hand slid forcefully down her waist. Even through the fabric, she could feel the heat and rough texture of his palm. "You woman, I both love and hate you." His voice was hoarse, on the verge of breaking, his hot breath washing over her ear. "From now on, there must be no more secrets. I want all of you. Your power, your secrets, every tremor of your body." Ella's body instinctively arched, goosebumps rising on her skin. Her voice was choked with tears, yet tinged with a low moan. "Your Majesty, everything I am, belongs to you, but those forces will not rest. The Council of Priestesses is already preparing a sacrificial ritual. The Hand of Shadows is manipulating the nobility through your mother, and the remnants of the rebel army are regrouping at the border. We must strike first." Meanwhile, the conspiracies outside have not ceased. In the underground sanctuary of the Council of Priestesses, the flames of black candles flickered violently. The elderly high priestess's gaunt fingers clutched a crystal ball, its surface reflecting the lingering images of the assembly. Her voice was shrill as a bone, scraping blade. "The vessel has partially awakened. We must hasten the sacrifice and act while Ronan still harbors doubts about her. Use fragments of the eternal power to tempt his mother, so she poisons him with her own hands." In the rebel camp, deep within the forest, the new leader growled into the campfire, the crackling flames mingling with the grating sound of warriors sharpening their claws. "Ella has revealed her power, but she remains our breakthrough. Send assassins to infiltrate the palace. The goal isn't to kill Ronan, but to force her to unleash her full power, causing the pact to split completely." Meanwhile, the shadow hand continued weaving its web in the noble's private chamber. Amid the clinking of wine glasses, a chilling voice said, "Ronan is currently obsessed with her. We'll use that to our advantage. Spread the rumor that her magic will devour the Alpha's wolf nature, and let his mother take action herself." Yet, it was on this very night that Ronan made his decision. Holding Ella close, his burning palms traced her spine over and over. As if to confirm her existence, he whispered, "Tomorrow I will publicly proclaim you my queen. Anyone who dares to question it is a traitor. We'll face those shadows together, Ella. I won't let you bear this alone anymore." Ella buried her face against his chest, listening to his powerful heartbeat as tears fell silently. A surge of unprecedented resolve and complex emotions welled up within her. His submission had begun, but the true test had only just begun. "My power must fully blossom at the critical moment, making all the manipulators pay the price." The aftermath of this pack assembly swept through the entire kingdom like a storm. Ella's brief display of power not only altered Ronan's perception of her, but also plunged all factions into unprecedented panic. The forbidden bond between them grew ever stronger amid the intertwining of blood, magic, and true love, while her transformation from a feigned weakling to an awakened one was step by step rewriting the ancient prophecy. In the aftermath of the pack assembly, the atmosphere in the palace was as taut as a bowstring, with every heartbeat carrying the potential for danger. Inside the bedchamber, the candles had burned down to their stubs, casting flickering shadows on the stone walls. The air was thick with the faint, rusty scent of dried blood and the intense masculine scent of Ronan. Ella leaned against his broad chest, feeling the rise and fall of his chest with every breath. His scorching body heat seeped into her skin like molten lava, causing a fine sheen of sweat to break out on her back. Ronan's large hand slid upward from her waist. The rough texture of his fingertips brushed against the fabric, sending waves of tingling sensation and pressure through her. His deep voice sounded in her ear, still hoarse from the intensity. "First thing tomorrow morning, I will proclaim you queen before the entire pack. Anyone who dares to oppose this is committing open rebellion." Ella lifted her head, her watery eyes reflecting the candlelight. She deliberately kept her voice soft, yet it carried the clarity that came with her awakening. "Your Majesty, isn't this a bit too soon? Your mother and those nobles, they won't accept this easily. My power has only just begun to reveal itself. They'll only grow more desperate to eliminate me, seeing me as a vessel that threatens the eternal power." Her fingers pressed gently against the wound on his shoulder, feeling the faint seepage of warm blood beneath the gauze. The sticky sensation made her heart clench. Ronan frowned and grabbed her wrist, his grip so tight it made her knuckles ache. But he quickly softened into a gentle caress. "I don't care if they accept it. You've hidden for so long, all for this day. We'll face it together, your magic. I saw it save me with my own eyes. It's not a curse, it's a gift." Yet inside, her mind was racing like a finely tuned mechanism. His trust was deepening, but it wasn't solid enough yet. "I need more cracks to fully expose the internal conflicts within the pack, so I can use his hand to clear the obstacles." The next morning, the royal hall once again gathered representatives from all factions. Sunlight streamed through the high windows, casting dappled shadows, yet it could not dispel the tension in the air. Ronan stood before the throne, his towering figure casting a deep shadow. Holding Ella's hand, he announced before the assembly, "From this day forward, Ella Ravencroft is my official consort and queen. Any objection is a challenge to the throne." No sooner had the words left his mouth than a low murmur erupted through the hall. Ronan's mother leapt to her feet, her face ashen. She slammed her scepter down on the floor, producing a sharp, piercing echo. "Son, you've lost your mind. How can a vessel of unknown origin become queen? The pureblood line will be defiled, and the pack will be torn apart." Her voice was shrill, laced with long-suppressed rage, and her eyes swept toward Ella with a cold, venomous glare. Several nobles, manipulated by the shadow hand, immediately chimed in, the scraping of chairs mingling with whispers. "Your Majesty, the power she displayed in the hall last night is clearly the dangerous sign foretold in the prophecy. We demand an immediate bloodline investigation." A tall, slender nobleman stepped forward. The cold glint of a poison needle was faintly visible beneath his sleeve. He raised his voice deliberately. "If she truly is a vessel, her magic will slowly devour your Majesty's wolf nature. We cannot stand idly by." Ella stood beside Ronan, her body leaning slightly forward, her knees deliberately bent to project a look of weakness. Her voice was trembling with tears, yet every word was clear. "Your Majesty, Ella does not wish to see you turn against your own kin because of me. If the examination can prove my innocence, I am willing to undergo it." Her fingertips quietly gathered a thread of magic within her sleeve, sensing the latent killing intent around her. It pulsed like a faint electric current in the palm of her hand, bringing a sensation that was both burning and alerting. The Witch Council's counterattack came almost simultaneously. Just as the proclamation ceremony reached its midpoint, a lady-in-waiting suddenly rushed forward. The blessing wine on her tray spilled, the liquid laced with a secret suppressant, a pungent chemical odor lurking beneath the cloying sweetness of the wine. She shrieked, "Queen, please drink this cup of pure blood blessing." Amid the shatter of the goblet, the liquid splashed onto the stone floor, emitting a faint sizzling sound as it corroded the surface. Ronan was instantly on guard. He shoved Ella aside and used his own arm to block the splashing liquid. The moment his skin touched it, it swelled red, and the searing pain made him furrow his brow. Amid the chaos, Ella released a thread of purifying magic to neutralize the remaining potion. But outwardly, she threw herself at Ronan's side, tears streaming down her face. "Your Majesty, your arm, it's all my fault." Her hand pressed against his wound, feeling the tension and heat of his muscles. The tugging of their bond caused both their breaths to grow heavy. Meanwhile, remnants of the rebel forces launched small-scale probing attacks along the border. A messenger galloped back at full speed, bringing a blood-stained battle report. 3 watchtowers in the Eastern Territories had been burned to the ground. Descriptions of howling wolves and bursting flames echoed through the hall. Supporters of the Kelvin remnants immediately seized the opportunity to attack. "Look, this is the calamity brought by the vessel. The warriors of the pack are bleeding, yet a woman harboring magic sits upon the throne." The conflict reached a new peak during private discussions. That evening, Ronan's mother summoned Ella for a private audience. In the dimly lit chamber, the scent of rose perfume hung thick and stifling. The old lady seized her arm, her nails digging into her skin with a sharp sting. "Do you think a little show of skill will get you to the top? The Hand of Shadows has prepared the final plan. During the Queen's coronation, we will use a shard of eternal power to trigger the vessel magic within you, causing you to lose control in public and gravely wound Ronan with your own hands. At that point, the pack will force him to depose you, or even sacrifice you." Ella bowed her head to endure the pain. Her tears fell onto the stone floor with a faint clatter, and her voice trembled. "My lady, I only wish to be by His Majesty's side. Please spare my life." As she left the secret chamber, her arm throbbed faintly, yet a cold smile, invisible to others, curled at the corners of her mouth. "I've finally obtained the crucial intelligence. The coronation will be the perfect stage for a counterattack." Ronan was waiting for her in the bedchamber. Upon seeing the red marks on her arm, his wolfish nature erupted instantly. He pinned her against the wall. The cold, rough texture of the stone scraped across her back, bringing a starkly contrasting chill. His lips pressed roughly against hers with a force born of both punishment and desire. His teeth gently bit her lower lip, bringing a sweet, metallic taste of blood as he growled, "Whoever dares touch you, I'll make them regret ever being born." "Ella, I've accepted your secret, but don't face danger alone anymore." Ella wrapped her arms around his waist, her fingertips tracing the knotted muscles and tremors in his back. Her voice was broken as she replied, "Your Majesty, let's do this together. My power can be your blade, not a burden. The Council of Witches wants to sacrifice me. The Hand of Shadows seeks to manipulate your mother, and the rebels aim to divide the realm. But as long as we stand united, the prophecy will crumble." The emotional tug of war that night was more intense than ever before. Ronan's possessiveness mingled with newfound respect. His broad, scorching body completely enveloped her, and every deep penetration carried a trembling blend of tenderness and wildness. Sweat trickled down his muscular frame, dripping onto her chest and leaving a burning dampness. The magical resonance of their bond caused both to feel a deep vibration within their veins, like the fusion of fire and wolf. Ella moaned on the brink of climax, tears streaming down her face, yet her resolve remained firm. "His heart is turning toward me. At the coronation, I will expose all conspiracies and ensure that the true strong stand side by side upon the throne." A storm is brewing in the kingdom, and the coronation will become the final battlefield. Ella's awakening is no longer a secret, but the beginning of her gradual mastery of the game. The union of true love and power is slowly tearing apart the shackles of the ancient prophecy. Friends, this forbidden tale of a werewolf alpha and a magical queen has entered the most tense tug of war between political intrigue and emotion. Every declaration and touch brings a racing heart and anticipation. If you enjoy this deep healing journey from suspicion to solidarity, along with the thrill of layer upon layer of revenge, remember to follow, like, and share with your friends. Let's follow this epic drama of destiny together. Tell me in the comments, how do you most want to see Ella stun the crowd at the coronation? Will she crush the sacrifice plot outright, or first use her magic to expose Ronan's mother's betrayal? Your ideas will help guide my writing. Next time, we'll dive straight into the climactic showdown at the coronation. Amid the frantic preparations leading up to the coronation, a stifling atmosphere of impending storm hung over every corridor of the palace. Ella Ravencroft felt the magic within her building up silently like a dormant volcano, each heartbeat carrying a secret tremor. The morning sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, casting mottled, multicolored patterns across the floor of the great hall. Yet it could not dispel the tense atmosphere in the air. The cloying scent of incense, the cold sharpness of polished metal, and the faint rustling of the guard's leather armor. Ronan stood on the high platform trying on the crown, his towering figure casting a deep shadow. He suddenly reached out and pulled Alara close, his rough palm clasping her waist so tightly that the soft flesh at her side indented slightly, bringing a sensation of heat that was both oppressive and reassuring. At the coronation, you will stand by my side. Ronan's voice was deep and powerful, his amber eyes locked onto hers, his breath hot against her forehead. No matter what happens, I will not let go. Those factions think they can manipulate us with prophecies. Let them taste the fangs of a wolf and the power of magic. Ella leaned forward slightly, deliberately keeping her knees bent in a hint of vulnerability, her voice trembling just enough. Your Majesty, I fear they will go all out during the ceremony. If my magic is fully exposed, might it cause the pack to split apart completely? But I am willing to face it with you, even if it means being shattered to pieces. Her fingers traced upward along his breastplate, resting lightly over his heart. She could clearly feel the powerful yet slightly erratic thudding, like war drums echoing within his chest. The resonance of their mate bond sent a warm, tingling current, surging deep into her lower abdomen. Yet her mind remained as cool and sharp as an ice blade. The ritual is the perfect stage. I will bring all hidden threads to the surface at once, transforming Ronan's trust into a blade that cuts through our enemies side by side. Meanwhile, the final maneuvers of all factions are accelerating behind the scenes. Deep within the underground sanctuary of the Council of Witches, the flames of black candles flickered, casting distorted shadows of the elderly witches. The air was thick with the acrid, burnt stench of bone ash and the musty odor of damp earth. The leader dipped her gaunt fingers in blood to draw runes on the crystal array. The grating sound of her nails scraping against the stone echoed endlessly. On the day of the coronation, use fragments of the eternal power to trigger the vessel's magic, make her lose control in front of the entire pack and severely wound Ronan. Then sacrifice her in the name of the out of control vessel and seize the power. The remnants of the rebel forces gathered in the dense forests along the border. Bonfires crackled, and the crisp sound of branches being torn by claws echoed constantly. The new leader clutched a blood-stained map and growled, "On the day of the ritual, we'll feign surrender and infiltrate the outer perimeter of the royal palace. Our goal isn't assassination, but to create chaos, to force Ella to unleash her magic completely, so those neutral lords can witness the danger." The Shadow Hand, meanwhile, carried out the most treacherous part of the plan through Ronan's mother. Amid the rose bushes in the private garden, where the rich scent of petals mingled with the dampness of the earth, the old lady handed Ella a seemingly ornate brooch. Her sharp nails deliberately scraped across the palm of her hand, causing a searing sting. "Wear it, Queen. It is a blessing. The Shadow Hand is ready. If you lose control during the ceremony, it will help you master your power, though. Of course, it might also cause your power to backfire." As Ella took the brooch, her fingertips felt the cold touch of metal and a faint ripple of hidden magic. She bowed her head in a curtsy, and tears slid down her cheeks. "Thank you, madam. Ella will cherish it." As she left, the red mark on her palm throbbed faintly, yet it brought a cold smile to her lips that no one could see. On the day of the coronation, the atmosphere in the great hall reached a fever pitch. Beneath the golden dome, torches and crystal chandeliers shone in harmony, while the rustling of nobles' fine garments and their whispers blended into a single hum. Dressed in a black and gold tuxedo, Ronan stood tall and regal at the center. He took Ella's hand and led her toward the throne. With every step, the hem of her silk gown brushed the floor, bringing a faint chill. Her other hand secretly clutched the brooch. Her fingertips had already quietly infused it with a thread of purifying magic. She felt the suppressed power within it, stirring restlessly, like countless fine needles, dancing in the palm of her hand. As Ronan slowly placed the queen's crown upon her head, the cool touch of metal pressed against her forehead, accompanied by a collective, low gasp from the audience. A nobleman suddenly shouted, "Your Majesty, we cannot allow the vessel to become queen." Before the words had even finished, the sorceress's spies sprang into action. Black, cursed smoke rose from the ground, and a putrid stench instantly filled the air, wrapping itself around Ella's legs and bringing excruciating pain, both icy and searing. Ronan roared as he shifted into his half-wolf form, his claws tearing through the smoke, the sizzling sound of scorched flesh echoing. He shielded Ella behind him, his rough wolf's body pressed tightly against her back, his scorching body heat and masculine scent completely enveloping her. "Dare to strike on Coronation Day. You're asking for death," Ella deliberately screamed as she fell to her knees. The dull pain of her knees striking the stone slab caused tears to stream down her face. Yet in that very moment, she suddenly unleashed her accumulated magical power. A blue flame erupted from within her, like a dreamlike yet destructive wave, swallowing and repelling the cursed mist entirely. Amid the flames, her voice was no longer entirely soft, but carried a crisp, piercing clarity. "Enough. The Council of Priestesses has treated me as a vessel since my childhood. You spread prophecies and implanted magic into me, all for the sake of seizing power today." With a flick of her finger, the shadow hand brooch shattered under the force of her magic, revealing the hidden detonation fragments within. The fragments floated in the air, projecting phantom images of Ronan's mother, conspiring with the shadow hand. In the vision, the old lady whispered her plan to poison him, her voice echoing clearly throughout the hall. The hall erupted in an uproar. Ronan's mother turned deathly pale, her scepter clattering to the floor with a sharp clang. "No, this is a trap." Rebel infiltrators charged in amid the chaos, only to have their legs bound by the blue threads of light released by Ella. Their movements froze, stiff as stone, their howls laced with terror. Ronan lunged forward in a frenzy. The sound of his claws tearing through the enemy was brutal and bloody. Warm blood spattered onto Ella's skirt. The sticky, scorching sensation made her whole body shudder. Yet it also gave her a thrill as she felt her power awaken. Ella stood up, a blaze of magic surrounding her, visually as dazzling as the blue flame queen. She looked at Ronan, her voice firm yet filled with emotion. "Your Majesty, my concealment was not a deception, but a means to survive until this moment when I could stand beside you. This bond of companionship is not a shackle, but the key with which we shall shatter the prophecy together." Ronan shifted back into human form, his large hands pulling her into his embrace. He pressed his palm against her lower back with such force it nearly dug into her skin. He lowered his head to kiss her lips, a kiss rough yet trembling with tenderness, its heat mingling with the scent of blood. "Ella, you are my queen. From this day forward, together we will tear every conspiracy to shreds." In that moment, the remnants of the Pack Council's forces collapsed completely. The sorceress's spies were subdued on the spot, the nobles of the Shadow Hand fled in panic, and Ronan's mother was led away by her personal guards, her face etched with shock and despair. Ella leaned against Ronan's burning chest, listening to his powerful heartbeat. Tears slid down her cheeks, yet a profound sense of fulfillment and vigilance welled up within her. The first step of the counterattack was complete. But the true secret of the eternal power remained hidden, and more trials lay ahead. True love, forged in blood and magic, had finally begun to take root. The blood and fire of the coronation not only formally elevated Ella to the throne as queen, but also allowed the entire Moon, Shadow Kingdom to witness a legendary transformation from a feigned weakling to a true powerhouse. The forbidden tug of war at the pinnacle of power has forged the strongest of alliances, and their story has only just entered a new chapter. Friends, this tale of forbidden power struggles between a werewolf alpha and a magic queen reached a dual climax of emotion and power during the coronation. Every burst of magic and every life and death moment sends the blood racing. If you enjoy this cathartic thrill, from biding your time for a counterattack to reigning side by side, be sure to follow, like, and save this post. Let's continue exploring the kingdom's reconstruction and deeper secrets together. Tell me in the comments, how are you most looking forward to Ella and Ronan handling Ronan's mother's betrayal? Will they choose forgiveness or a complete reckoning? Your thoughts will fuel my passion for writing. And after the bloodshed and chaos of the coronation had subsided, the Moonshadow Palace entered a brief yet turbulent period of calm. As the new queen, Ella Ravencroft had officially taken her place at the center of power, yet she could feel more eyes piercing her like sharp blades. The cleanup of the Great Hall continued late into the night, the muffled thud of guards dragging heavy corpses, intermingling with the rustling of fabric as they wiped away bloodstains. The lingering scent of rust in the air was gradually masked by incense, yet it could not entirely conceal the scorched remnants of magical energy left behind by the battle. Ronan took Ella's hand as they walked back to the bedchamber. His towering shadow completely enveloped her, and each step caused the floor to tremble slightly. The heat radiating from his palm was intense and firm. His knuckles had turned slightly white from the pressure, conveying a sense of oppression that blended protection with possessiveness, sending a fine shiver across Ella's skin. The moment the bedchamber door closed, the heavy oak echoed with a deep thud, cutting off the whispers from outside. Inside, the candles had been replaced with soft silver ones, casting a warm yet unobtrusive glow. Ronan pinned her against the carved bedpost, his broad chest pressed tightly against hers. His masculine scent washed over her like a tide, a potent blend of sweat and the faint, metallic tang of blood that made her breathing grow heavy against her will. His rough fingers traced the side of her neck, his thumb pressing against her pulse, where she could clearly feel the beat quickening. "Today, you showed me your true self." Ronan's voice was low and hoarse, still rough from the ritual, his hot breath sending shivers down her spine as it brushed her earlobe. "Ella, from feigning weakness to unleashing your magic, you've been walking a razor's edge. I'm furious that you kept this from me. Yet, I can't stop wanting to keep you locked by my side." Ella lifted her eyes, her long lashes still streaked with tears from the ceremony that hadn't yet dried. She deliberately leaned forward slightly, her voice soft yet firm. "Your Majesty, I concealed the truth so I could live to stand by your side at this moment. Those factions wield the prophecy as a weapon. I had no choice but to counter them with the mask of a weakling. Now that the coronation is a fait accompli, we must address the internal rifts, especially regarding your mother. She has been manipulated too deeply by the Shadow Hand. If this isn't resolved, the reconstruction of the pack could collapse at any moment." Her hand rested on his chest. She could feel the powerful thud of his heart and the slight tension in his muscles. The resonance of their mate bond sent a warm, tingling sensation surging through her veins, as if magic and wolf nature were quietly merging. Yet inside, she was calmly mapping out her next move. Her mother's betrayal was a critical turning point. Handled correctly, it could solidify Ronan's trust while dismantling the remaining factions. The establishment of the kingdom's new order begins with an interrogation. The next morning, the underground interrogation chamber was damp and chilly. Droplets seeped from the stone walls, falling to the floor with a faint drip, drip, mingling with the grating sound of chains rubbing against each other. Ronan's mother was chained to the iron chair in the center, the flickering torchlight casting distorted shadows across her face. She looked up at Ella as she entered, her eyes flashing with venom and complexity. "You vessel, you've finally bared your fangs. The hand of shadows was merely using me. Do you think you've won? There are more shards of the eternal power, and the pureblood faction of the pack won't yield so easily. Ella stood beside Ronan, the soft, cool rustle of her silk robe brushing against the floor. Her voice was calm yet piercing. "Madam, I have not come for revenge. I wish to know, why did you choose to collaborate with the Shadow Hand? Was it fear that I would take Ronan from you, or did the dread of the prophecy lead you to sacrifice your own son?" The old lady sneered, her nails digging into the iron chair's armrest with a scraping sound. "Fear. The pack needs a strong bloodline, not a weak vessel implanted with magic. The power you unleash today will devour his wolfish nature tomorrow. The Shadow Hand promised me the eternal power. Only then can I protect the family." Ronan's amber eyes narrowed. He pressed his large hand onto Ella's shoulder with such force that her shoulder bones ached faintly. Yet the heat radiating from him brought a sense of reassurance. "Mother, you've been manipulated. Ella's magic saved me, not harmed me. The interrogation will continue until you reveal every Shadow Hand stronghold." Outside the interrogation room, Ella leaned against the stone wall. Its rough, cold surface scraped against her back, sending shivers down her spine. She closed her eyes to sense the flow of magic, like tiny currents coursing through her veins, bringing a sensation that was both painful and empowering. She calculated inwardly, use her mother to uncover the Shadow Hand's network, while simultaneously demonstrating her self-control and wisdom to Ronan, further deepening their emotional bond. The mop-up operation against the rebel remnants shifted to the border. A few days later, Ronan led his troops eastward, and Ella insisted on accompanying him. In the dense forest, the rustling of leaves mingled with the muffled thud of hooves on the ground. The air was damp, carrying the fresh scent of pine needles and the musky odor of wild animals' fur. That night in the camp, Ronan pulled her into his embrace. His broad, scorching body completely enveloped her, sweat dripping down his muscular frame, bringing a burning dampness. His fingers slid over her waist. The rough texture sent shivers through her as he growled, "Don't try to be a hero on the battlefield. Your magic is powerful, but the pack warriors need to see the Queen's wisdom, not just her strength." Ella wrapped her arms around his neck, her fingertips digging into the muscles of his back, feeling the faint tremor beneath his powerful, sinewy frame. "Your Majesty, I will use my magic to aid our reconnaissance. The rebels think I am merely an awakened vessel, but they do not know that I have mastered the resonance of fragments of the eternal power. During tomorrow's surprise attack, I will be able to sense their ambush in advance." When the battle erupted, the forest echoed with deafening wolf howls and the clang of clashing blades. Ella stood on a high ridge, a blue glow of magic silently spreading like an invisible net over the battlefield. She sensed the magical fluctuations from the rebel leader's hiding place, a stinging sensation feeding back to her fingertips, alerting Ronan in time. The sound of Ronan's claws tearing through his enemies in wolf form was brutal and bloody. As warm blood splattered, he turned to look at her, his amber eyes filled with dependence and intensity. Their bond deepened as they fought side by side. That night, after returning to the palace, the silk sheets in the bedchamber felt cool and slippery against her skin, a stark contrast to Ronan's scorching body heat. He pinned her beneath him, his lips moving roughly yet tenderly from the side of her neck to her collarbone. The light bite of his teeth brought a sharp sting and a sweet tingling sensation, while his deep voice echoed in her ear. "Ella, you are no longer the maid who knelt outside the door holding a bowl of medicine. You are my queen, my partner, my everything. I once had doubts, but now all that remains is the desire to keep you by my side forever." Ella's body arched, sweat soaking her hair. Her voice broke as she replied, tears sliding down to soak the pillow. "Your Majesty, this tug of war began as a taboo, but now it has become our strength. The remnants of the Sorceresses' Council are still operating underground. We must join forces to eradicate them before we can truly restore order to the pack." The details of the kingdom's reconstruction were being worked out layer by layer. Ronan publicly executed several nobles of the Shadow Hand. The sound of the verdict echoed through the great hall, intertwined with the clanking of chains, and the low sobs of the nobles begging for mercy. Meanwhile, Ella secretly used her magic to purge the remaining cursed formations of the Council of Priestesses. The process made her meridians burn like fire. Though her fingertips stung, it also made her power more stable. At the council meeting, she proposed a new bill, coexistence of mixed bloodlines and magic. Using data and projections to demonstrate her case, she persuaded the neutral lords with a clear, forceful voice, while blue light projected a vision of a future of peaceful coexistence. After prolonged interrogation, Ronan's mother finally broke down and revealed the locations of the remaining strongholds. Confined to a side chamber, she spoke with a trembling voice as Ella personally delivered her medicinal broth. Perhaps the prophecy was wrong. You are not merely a vessel, but one who can alter destiny. Complex emotions surged within Ella. Forgiveness is not weakness, but the wisdom to solidify the new order. Her disguise was completely stripped away, and with both power and emotion coexisting, she led the pack from division toward unity. But a new threat was quietly emerging. The true core of the eternal power seemed to lie within an ancient ruin on the border, and fragments of the prophecy hinted at a greater storm. As Ronan and Ella discussed matters in the bedchamber, his large hand enveloped hers. The burning touch brought reassurance. No matter what lies ahead, we'll face it together. Ella leaned against his chest, listening to his heartbeat, her tears mingling with a smile. True love, forged in the crucible of political intrigue, has finally borne fruit. The next phase is to explore the ancient ruins and put an end to the prophecy once and for all. Friends, this forbidden tale of a werewolf alpha and a magical queen has entered a new phase of kingdom, building and emotional bonding following the coronation. Every decision made side by side and every moment of tender tension is filled with healing power and anticipation. If you enjoy this deep evolution from conflict to alliance and the setup for new adventures, remember to follow, like, and share with your friends so we can all witness the new era of their kingdom together. Let me know in the comments, what new challenges are you most looking forward to seeing in the upcoming exploration of the ancient ruins? Will it be stronger enemies or the revelation of the prophecy's truth? Your thoughts will inspire my writing. And in the next chapter, we'll dive straight into the ruins adventure and an even greater emotional climax. Once the kingdom had stabilized following the coronation, Ella Ravencroft and Ronan turned their attention to the ancient ruins on the border, where it was said the true core of the eternal power lay hidden, and perhaps the key to putting an end to the prophecy once and for all. In the palace courtyard at dawn, a thin mist swirled around the towering stone columns, its cold, damp chill seeping into the skin. Dressed in a lightweight exploration robe, the fabric brushing against her arms with a faint, cool smoothness, Ella stood beside Ronan, watching the guards prepare the horses and supplies. The dull thud of hooves on flagstones mingled with the clang of metal tack, and the air carried a scent of leather and herbs. Ronan's towering figure cast a shadow over her. He reached out and pulled her close, his rough palm gripping her waist so tightly that the soft flesh at her side indented slightly, his scorching heat seeping through the fabric directly onto her skin. The ruins are dangerous. You must not leave my side for a moment. Ronan's voice was deep and commanding, his amber eyes fixed on her, his hot breath on her forehead, sending waves of tingling sensation through her. I will never let you face the unknown alone again. Ella lifted her head, her long lashes fluttering slightly, deliberately keeping a hint of softness in her voice. Your Majesty, my power has resonated with yours. The eternal core within the ancient ruins might allow us to fully control the prophecy rather than being controlled by it. But I fear there may still be remnants of the Sorceress's Council and undiscovered strongholds of the Hand of Shadows there. Her fingers rested on his breastplate, She could feel his heart beating strongly and his muscles tensing slightly. The resonance of their bond sent a warm, tingling current surging through her veins, as if magic and wolf nature were quietly merging. Deep within, however, she was calmly strategizing. This expedition was not merely a quest for power, but a litmus test for the stability of the new order. Any lingering conspiracies would come to light within the ruins. After the party set out, the dense forest gradually gave way to barren mountains. The horses jolted along the rocky path. The wooden saddles rubbed against the inside of her thighs, causing a constant pressure and a slight stinging sensation. The wind rustled through the treetops, mingling with the distant growls of beasts. Upon reaching the entrance to the ruins, the afterglow of the setting sun bathed the ancient stone archway, while vine-entwined pillars cast mottled shadows. The air was damp and chilly, carrying the musty scent of aged dust and faint traces of residual magic. Ella reached out to touch the stone gate. The cold, rough texture scraped against her fingertips, like countless tiny electric currents surging into her palm, bringing a sensation that was both burning and alerting. "There is a living array here," she whispered, releasing a thread of blue magic from her fingertips. The light seeped into the cracks in the stone, illuminating the hidden runes on the gate. The runes emitted a faint hum as they lit up, appearing visually like a flowing blue river. Ronan shifted into his half-wolf form and stood guard in front of her, his thickly furred body pressed tightly against her back, his rough paw pads resting on her shoulders, offering a strange blend of comfort and pressure. "Watch out for traps. I'll lead the way." Inside the ruins, danger and truth unfolded layer by layer. Upon entering the main corridor, cold droplets seeped from the stone walls, falling to the ground with a rhythmic drip-drop that echoed through the empty space like a heartbeat. The flickering torchlight cast distorted shadows. Suddenly, a ground-based rune array activated, and sharp stone spikes burst from the earth below, their piercing whiz through the air accompanied by the pungent smell of dirt. Ronan growled as he scooped her up and leaped into the air. The crisp sound of his wolf claws tearing through the stone spikes mingled with the spray of flying debris. His scorching body heat completely enveloped her, and sweat trickled down the side of her neck, leaving a damp, warm sensation. "Are you okay?" He checked her arm the moment they landed, his rough fingertips rubbing against her skin, leaving a pressure that felt like red marks. Ella shook her head, her breathing slightly ragged. "I sense the core lies deeper, but there are guardian spirits roaming about. Those are the lingering souls of the vessels of the weak, created by the prophecy." She closed her eyes and focused her magic. Her meridians burned like fire, and a sharp, stinging pain shot through her fingertips. Yet she successfully summoned a blue web of light, trapping the flickering black shadow ahead. The shadow let out a wailing shriek like a vengeful spirit, its sound scraping against her eardrums like metal, sending a chill down her spine. As the light net tightened, the shadow shattered into specks of light. Before fading away, it whispered a fragmented prophecy. "The vessel fuses with the Wolf King or destroys everything." Ronan narrowed his eyes. He pressed his large hand against her lower back with such force that her spine arched slightly. "Fusion? That's why they're afraid. Let's keep going." As they ventured deeper into the inner chamber, the temperature plummeted. A thin frost formed on the stone walls, and the cold seeped through the soles of their boots into the soles of their feet, like countless ice needles piercing their bones. Floating atop the central altar was the core of the eternal power, a pulsating crystal, its surface rippling with golden blue patterns, visually breathing like a living creature. The air was thick with high-pitched humming and the cloying scent of magic, making it hard to breathe. Just as Ella reached out, the last assassins of the Shadow Hand emerged from the shadows. Cloaked in invisibility, the sharp clang of their drawn blades shattered the silence. One assassin lunged at Ronan, the shriek of the blade cutting through the air mingled with the acrid stench of venom. Ronan swung his wolf claws, and the tearing sound of the cloak's fabric, intertwining with the dull thud of breaking bones, filled the air as warm blood spattered onto the edge of the altar, carrying a strong metallic scent. Another targeted Ella, an arrow whistling through the air. She sidestepped, the arrow's tail grazing her arm and leaving a stinging mark as pain shot through her nerves. Ella channeled magic from her backhand, a blue beam of light piercing the assassin's chest. The figure fell with a stifled gurgle, its body twitching as it collapsed onto the cold stone slab. The moment the core activated, emotion and power reached new heights. The crystal's pulsation quickened, its light enveloping the two of them. Ella felt the magic within her being tugged by resonance, like countless fine threads intertwining with Ronan's wolfish nature, as waves of both agony and intense tingling surged deep within her meridians. Her body leaned toward him involuntarily, her voice trembling. "Your Majesty, it is testing us. The truth of the prophecy is, only through the fusion of true love can we master eternity, not destruction." Ronan pulled her tightly into his embrace, his broad, scorching chest pressed against her back, his masculine scent completely enveloping her. His rough chin rested against the hollow of her neck, his hot breath sending shivers through her. "Then let us fuse, Ella. I no longer doubt you. From this day forward, you are my queen, my wolf queen, my everything." Both of their palms pressed against the crystal. Simultaneously, magic and wolfish radiance converged, forming a dazzling golden blue vortex. The altar trembled, and the sound of falling rubble thundered like a clap of thunder, the dust stinging their noses. During the resonance, Ella's skin tightened all over, sweat soaked through her clothes, the cool fabric forming a stark contrast against her burning skin. She let out a low moan, tears streaming down her face, yet she felt a sense of wholeness unlike any she had ever known. The tug of the forbidden had finally transformed into the greatest power. On the way back to the palace, the new order was further consolidated. In the council chamber, Ronan publicly displayed the fragments of pure eternal power brought back from the ruins. A blue light projected images of peaceful coexistence, convincing the last of the neutral lords. Ella stood by his side, assisting him as she used her magic to demonstrate the new legislation. Her voice clear and forceful, "Pacts no longer need the shackles of pure blood. The fusion of magic and wolf nature is the future." That night in the bedchamber, the silk sheets were slick and cool. Ronan's body pressed down like a wall of fire, every touch carrying the searing desire ignited by their exploration of the ruins. His fingers traced every inch of her skin, their rough texture sent shivers through her, and a hoarse voice echoed in her ear. "Ella, tell me, are you still afraid?" She wrapped her arms around his neck, her fingertips digging into his back muscles, feeling the knotted strength pulsing in time with his heartbeat. "I'm not afraid anymore, because we have transcended the prophecy." But beneath the calm, a deeper secret quietly emerged. The eternal core hinted that even higher order forces of the ancient gods were watching over this world. Ella leaned against Ronan's chest, listening to his steady heartbeat, and a resolve welled up within her. The journey is far from over, but she has transformed from a pawn into a player. Friends, this forbidden tale of a werewolf alpha and a magic queen has reached new heights of power fusion and emotional transcendence through their exploration of ancient ruins. Every shared moment of danger and intimate touch is filled with tension and healing. If you enjoy this progression from political intrigue to adventure, and from conflict to an eternal alliance, be sure to follow, like, and save this post. Let's unlock the next phase of ancient god secrets in kingdom defense together. Tell me in the comments, what new threat do you most anticipate emerging from the ruins? Will it be a higher tier ancient god, or a new internal rebellion? Your thoughts will help guide my writing, and in our next installment, we'll dive straight into the high-stakes conflict of a new chapter. Upon returning from their exploration of the ancient ruins, The Moon Shadow Palace entered a transitional period marked by outward prosperity, but harboring a new crisis. The bond between Ella Ravencroft and Ronan had fully merged, yet it had also drawn the attention of higher powers. The party returning to the palace made their way along mountain trails, the panting of horses intermingling with the crisp clatter of hooves, striking gravel, while the wind carried the fresh scent of pine resin mixed with the dry smell of dust. Ella leaned against Ronan's chest, feeling the rise and fall of his broad chest and his scorching body heat. That bond of companionship made their meridians flow as one, the intertwining of magic and wolfish nature sending a continuous tingling warmth through her. Her fingers unconsciously pressed into the muscles of his arm. The knotted strength beneath the rough fabric made her heart tighten slightly. "The core has fused with us," Ronan's deep voice sounded in her ear, his hot breath sending shivers down her spine. His large hand wrapped around her waist from behind, the pressure so firm it caused the soft flesh at her side to dip slightly. But those whispers, the forces of the ancient gods. It seems there is a grander scheme beyond the prophecy. Ella turned her head, the twilight's afterglow reflected in her watery eyes. Her voice was gentle yet resolute. "Your Majesty, we are no longer pawns to be manipulated. Since the fusion, my range of perception has expanded. I can faintly detect anomalous fluctuations deep within the borderlands, as if a vast slumbering entity is awakening. We need time to consolidate the kingdom's internal stability before we face it." Deep within, however, she was rapidly assessing the potential risks. The fusion of the eternal cores had brought power, but it could also make them a target for new forces. She must eliminate the final hidden threats within the court while simultaneously strengthening her emotional bond with Ronan. The reconstruction of the kingdom had entered a substantive phase, with internal reforms proceeding in tandem. In the council chamber, the crackling of burning torches mingled with the whispers of nobles, and the air was thick with the musty scent of ink, parchment, and leather seats. Ronan sat in the seat of honor, his towering figure radiating an oppressive heat. His large hand rested casually on Ella's shoulder. The warmth from his palm seeped through the fabric into her skin, making her feel both reassured and faintly exhilarated. A neutral lord rose to report, his voice cautious. "Your Majesty, the bill on mixed bloodlines proposed by the Queen has begun to bear fruit. Several tribes in the East are willing to try magic, assisted training. However, there are still pure-blood hardliners, spreading rumors in private, claiming that fusion will weaken our wolfish nature." Ella leaned forward slightly, her silk robe rustling softly against the seat. Her voice was clear and firm. "Those rumors stem from fear. We can demonstrate the benefits of fusion through public demonstrations. Magic enhances perception and healing, rather than consuming them." She tapped her fingertip, and a soft blue light projected onto the center of the hall, displaying a simulation of the warrior's enhanced strength. The light flickered, emitting a gentle hum. Ronan nodded, his amber eyes sweeping the room. "Anyone spreading rumors will be treated as a traitor. Ella's wisdom and strength are the future of the pack." After the meeting, Ronan led her back to the bedchamber. The dull thud of the heavy wooden door closing sealed them off from the outside world. Inside, flickering candlelight cast the overlapping shadows of the two of them. He pressed her against the edge of the carved table, his broad, scorching chest pressed tightly against her back, his masculine scent enveloping her completely. Rough fingers traced upward from her waist. The caress through the fabric sent waves of electric tingling through her. His hoarse voice sounded at her neck. "The way you looked in the hall today. It makes me want to lock you here right now, to belong only to me." Ella arched her back slightly, her skin breaking out in a fine shiver. Her voice trembled as she replied, "Your Majesty, I have long been entirely yours, but a new threat is approaching. We cannot afford to lose ourselves in this moment." Her hand clasped his wrist, her fingertips pressing into his pulse, feeling the powerful throb and the tugging resonance. Meanwhile, the tentacles of the ancient god's power were quietly extending. Late at night, in a side chamber, as Ella sensed the world alone, her meridians suddenly felt as if gripped by an invisible giant hand, a searing pain shooting from her fingertips straight to her heart. A vision flashed before her eyes amidst the ruins of an ancient temple. A blurred, colossal shadow opened its eyes, and a whisper like thunder echoed in her mind. Fusionists, you have disturbed the forbidden balance. The eternal core was meant to be a seal, not a gift. She clenched her teeth, sweat soaking her back, the cold silk sheets clinging stickily to her skin. As she struggled to suppress the sound, the backlash of magic drove her nails into the palms of her hands, bringing a sharp, stinging pain. Yet it also allowed her to catch a faint clue. The forces of the ancient gods were operating in the ancient forests along the border through the remnants of the witch clan. The next morning, she relayed her findings to Ronan. In the training ground, amid the crisp crack of a sword cleaving through a wooden post and the swirling dust, Ronan halted his movements, his wolfish aura intense. He pulled her into his arms, pressing his scorching palm against her back to check her condition. Did you endure that alone again last night? You must tell me next time. We'll face it together. The new crisis at the border escalated rapidly. When the team set out again, the depths of the dense forest were shrouded in mist, and the rustling of leaves was intermixed with eerie, low moans. Scouts reported discovering an unusual altar. Its stone surface was carved with twisted runes, and a strange odor, a mixture of rot and cloying sweetness, wafted through the air. Ronan transformed into his half-wolf form and charged ahead, the crisp sound of his claws tearing through the obstructing vines echoing constantly. Ella followed close behind, a blue shield of magic forming to ward off the corrosive sensation in the mist. The chill felt like fine needles pricking her skin, yet it was neutralized by a warm current. Before the altar, the remaining priestesses and the shadow hand appeared together, the leader's gaunt figure twisted in the firelight. Fusionists, you have disrupted the balance. The ancient god has awakened. It requires a sacrificial vessel to restore order. A beam of black-purple cursed light tore through the air, carrying a pungent stench, and emitted a shrill sizzling sound as it struck the shield. Ronan growled and lunged forward. The sound of his wolf claws tearing into the enemy was brutal and bloody. Warm, fresh blood splattered onto Ella's skirt, and the sticky, scorching sensation made her heart race. At the same moment, Ella unleashed her enhanced magic. A blue flame swept through like a tidal wave, purifying the altar's runes, and the sound of crystal, like shattering, echoed through the forest. In the heat of battle, her resonance with Ronan reached its peak, threads of magic intertwined with the wolf's power, making their movements perfectly synchronized, each coordinated action sending an intense tingling sensation deep through her veins. A priestess whispered as she lay dying, "The ancient god is already watching. The next awakening will occur on the night of the blood moon at the royal palace." Their emotions intensified further in the face of danger. That very night, upon their return, the atmosphere in the bedchamber was scorching. Ronan pulled her onto the bed, his broad frame completely enveloping her. Sweat dripped down his muscular contours, bringing a burning dampness. His lips roamed roughly from her collarbone to her chest, his teeth biting gently to trigger a sharp sting in sweet pleasure, as he growled, "Ella, whether it be the ancient gods or the prophecy, I will never let you face this alone again. You are my queen, my wolf queen, my eternity." Ella wrapped her arms around his neck, her fingertips digging into his back muscles to feel their knotted strength and tremors. Her voice was broken yet full of power. "Your Majesty, our union makes us stronger. This tug of war has become a bond. We will protect the kingdom together and uncover the truth of the ancient gods." The kingdom's new order solidified through trials. and the pack warriors began mixed training. The training grounds, where blue magical light intertwined with wolf howls, became a new sight. However, the approach of the blood moon night brought new undercurrents. As Ella leafed through ancient texts in the study, the rough texture of the parchment beneath her fingertips allowed her to perceive more fragments. The ancient gods were not merely enemies, but guardians of an ancient balance. The fusion might awaken an even greater transformation. Ronan embraced her from behind, resting his chin against the crook of her neck, his warm breath washing over her. "What are you thinking?" Ella leaned into him, her smile mingled with tears. "I'm thinking about how we'll continue to stand side by side in the next storm." Her resolve was as firm as rock. From a feigned weakling to a queen, she had taken control of her own destiny. The awakening of the ancient gods would mark the beginning of a new chapter. The fusion of true love and power would rewrite the very rules of the world. As the night of the blood moon drew near, every tower of the Moon Shadow Palace seemed shrouded in a secret omen. Though the combined power of Ella Ravencroft and Ronan had solidified, it had also caused higher-order beings to truly awaken. On the palace rooftop, the night breeze carried a chill as it brushed against the stone railing. Lifting the hem of Ella's robe, the fabric's friction against her skin brought a faint, cool sensation. The blood moon had not yet fully risen, but a faint crimson glow was already visible on the horizon, like a thin mist of blood shrouding the entire kingdom. Ronan stood behind her, his towering frame acting as a shield against the chill. His strong arms wrapped around her waist from behind, the scorching heat of his palms seeping through her clothes. His grip was firm enough to make her tense slightly, yet it also brought a profound sense of security. The blood moon is approaching, and the whispers of the ancient gods grow ever clearer. Ronan's voice was low and hoarse. His hot breath on the back of her ears sent a shiver of tingling sensation through her. "Ella, those fragments you sense, what does it truly want? Is it our union, or to shatter the balance of this world?" "Hey, senti sheng." Ella leaned into his broad chest, feeling the powerful thud of his heart and the enveloping scent of his wolfish nature. Her voice was soft, yet carried the crisp clarity of her awakening. "Your Majesty, it views us as both a threat and a key. The fusion of the eternal core has awakened a dormant fragment of its will, but the prophecy remains incomplete. If the fused one fails the trial, the ancient god will reshape the order, resealing all magic and wolfish nature." Her fingertips unconsciously pressed into the muscles of his arm, sensing the slight tension beneath the bulging strength. Yet her mind raced with calculations. The night of the blood moon will be the final trial. We cannot wait passively. We must lay our plans in advance. We must harness the power of the ancient god to completely eliminate the kingdom's last remaining threat, while simultaneously making our bond even more indissoluble. The final reorganization within the kingdom unfolded simultaneously. In the council chamber, the flickering flames of torches illuminated the ministers' faces, the air thick with the mingled scent of candle smoke and the musty odor of leather seats. Ella sat beside Ronan and presented her plan for defending against the blood moon. "We must deploy a fusion formation around the palace perimeter. The resonance between magic and wolf nature will strengthen the barrier. If the pure blood remnants attempt to stir up trouble, we can use this opportunity to wipe them out completely." An elderly minister murmured a question, his chair shifting slightly with a faint scrape. "Queen, will channeling magic accelerate the ancient god's awakening?" Ella tapped her fingertip, projecting a simulation in blue light that traced the formation's operational path. "That is precisely why we must take the initiative. Passivity will only make the ancient god view us as weak." Ronan's large hand covered hers, the rough lines on his palm radiating an oppressive warmth. "Proceed according to Ella's plan. Anyone who dares to cause trouble on the night of the blood moon is to be executed immediately." After the meeting, Ronan led her into a private lounge. The muffled thud of the heavy wooden door closing sealed them off from the outside world. He pinned her against the wall, the cold, textured stone scraped against her back, forming a stark contrast to his scorching chest. His rough fingers slid down the side of her neck to her collarbone, and the gentle bite of his teeth brought a sharp sting and a sweet tingling sensation. He growled, "Every time we face a crisis, you fascinate me more and more. Ella, don't bear the pain of perception alone anymore." Ella wrapped her arms around his neck, her fingertips digging into the muscles of his back, feeling his strength and tremors. "Your Majesty, we are already one. Tonight, let me resonate with you more deeply, so we may adapt in advance to the shock the ancient god might bring." The intimacy of that night resonated with an unprecedented power. In the bedchamber, the silk sheets felt cold and clammy against her skin. Ronan's broad body completely enveloped her, sweat dripping down his muscular form, bringing a burning dampness. With each thrust, a faint interweaving of blue magical light and golden wolfish radiance accompanied the motion, and a wave of intense tingling surged deep within her meridians, like fire and storm merging inside her. She moaned softly, tears streaming down her face, yet she felt an even stronger grip. Signs of the ancient god's awakening were manifesting at the border. The next day, scouts reported that a gigantic shadow had appeared deep within the ancient forest. The sounds of trees twisting and snapping echoed from afar, and the air was thick with the musty scent of ancient, long-buried dust and the oppressive low-frequency rumble of thunder. When Ronan led his team there, Ella insisted on accompanying them. Mist swirled through the woods, and vines stirred as if alive, rustling softly as they brushed against one another. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and a purplish-black fissure tore open. Illusory tentacles reached out from the crack, surging toward them with a corrosive chill. In his wolf form, Ronan lashed out with his claws. The sizzling sound of the tentacles being torn apart mingled with the shrill screech of the black mist dissipating. He shielded Ella behind him, his scorching wolf's body pressed tightly against hers. "Step back." Ella unleashed her enhanced magic, unfurling a blue flame like a shield that neutralized the lingering chill. Though her fingertips burned, she managed to catch a fragment of the ancient god's will. "It is testing the fusionist's resolve. On the night of the blood moon, it will project its true form and demand we offer a sacrifice of balance. Either our power or the entire kingdom's source of magic." Their emotional turmoil reached new heights in the midst of the crisis. Upon their return, Ronan held her tightly in the bedchamber, his chin resting against the hollow of her neck, his voice hoarse. "No matter what it demands, I will not let you sacrifice yourself. Ella, you are my eternity." Ella buried her face in his chest, listening to his heartbeat, her tears soaking his skin. "Your Majesty, we will face this together. It thinks the fusion is a weakness, but it does not know that this is already our greatest weapon." The night of the blood moon finally arrived. A blood-red crescent hung high above the palace, casting an eerie red glow that tinted everything with an ominous hue. The magical arrays inside and outside the grand hall had been activated, weaving a web of blue magical light, intertwined with the low growls of the wolf warriors. The projection of the ancient god slowly materialized, a massive phantom shrouding the sky, its deep voice echoing like thunder. "Fusionists, offer up your essence and restore the balance. Else, the kingdom shall be reshaped with my awakening." Ella and Ronan stood shoulder to shoulder, their fused power unleashed in full force as golden, blue light shot skyward. Her resolve burned as fiercely as a torch. This was not merely a trial, but an opportunity to rewrite the rules. The mask had long since fallen. Now, she would stand with Ronan to protect the realm and transcend their ancient destiny. After the decisive battle on the night of the blood moon had concluded, the Moon Shadow Palace entered a period of apparent renewal. Yet it also left behind a lingering sense of mystery and hidden possibilities. The blood-red moon gradually turned silver, white, and the remnants of the magical storm receded like an ebbing tide from the skies above the kingdom. The air remained thick with the acrid residue of magic, the rusty scent of dried blood, and the bitter, smoky aftertaste of burnt resin. Ella stood at the edge of the highest platform, the hem of her robe whipped up by the night wind, the fabric brushing against her skin and sending shivers of coolness through her. The fused power within her still pulsed faintly, flowing like a warm stream deep within her meridians. It resonated with Ronan's wolfish nature, forming a steady rhythm, yet it also allowed her to vaguely sense a more distant fluctuation. The ancient god had not completely perished, but had merely retreated temporarily to the edge of equilibrium. Ronan pulled her into his arms from behind, his tall, scorching body completely enveloping her. His rough palm pressed against her lower abdomen with such force that her skin indented slightly, bringing a familiar sense of pressure and reassurance. His chin rested against the hollow of her neck. The warmth of his breath sent a fine shiver through her. His deep voice carried a hoarse satisfaction and a hint of caution. It has acknowledged our new balance. But Ella, I can feel it. That whisper hasn't been completely silenced. The ancient god is watching, waiting for us to show a weakness. Ella leaned against his broad chest, listening to his strong, powerful heartbeat. Tears mixed with sweat slid down her cheeks, their salty taste seeping between her lips. Her voice was soft yet carried the clarity and resolve born of her awakening. Your Majesty, we are no longer pawns manipulated by prophecy. The fusion has allowed us to see further. The eternal core is not the end, but the key to a greater chessboard. The kingdom needs time to rebuild, and we also need time to explore the secrets that have yet to awaken. Yet her heart was like an undercurrent beneath a calm lake. The joy of victory was mingled with a new unease. Now that the ancient gods have retreated, might other ancient god factions, external kingdoms, or deeper fragments of the prophecy emerge? How long could this hard-won unity last? The kingdom's new order advanced slowly, testing the waters. In the days that followed, the mixed blood bill was fully implemented, and the sight of blue magical light and wolf warriors training in the arena became a daily occurrence. Ronan publicly executed the last remnants of the pure blood faction. The sounds of sentencing and the clanking of chains intertwined within the great hall, while Ela used her magic to purify the remaining cursed formations along the border. Ronan's mother, under house arrest, gradually came to her senses and was permitted to participate in some reconstruction efforts as an advisor. The look in her eyes as she gazed at Ela shifted from venom to one of complexity. Perhaps you truly are the one who can rewrite everything. Yet beneath the surface calm, dark currents churned. Scouts occasionally reported new, eerie signs in the ancient forests along the border, twisted trees, inexplicable low-frequency vibrations, and fleeting shadows that seemed to be projections of ancient gods. When Ella sensed these disturbances late at night, her meridians would suddenly burn with pain, and her fingertips felt as if pulled by invisible threads. She bit her lip to stifle a cry, yet found temporary solace in Ronan's embrace. The emotional tug of war evolved into a deeper attachment and exploration after their victory. Inside the bedchamber, flickering candlelight cast overlapping shadows. Ronan pressed her down onto the silk sheets. Their cool, slippery texture stood in stark contrast to his scorching body heat. His rough fingers traced every inch of her skin, and his teeth gently nipped at her collarbone, delivering a sharp sting and a sweet tingling sensation. He growled, Ella, no matter what ancient gods or secrets lie ahead, I will not let you face them alone. You are my queen, my wolf queen, my eternity. But do not hide any of your perceptions from me anymore. Ella wrapped her arms around his neck, her fingertips digging into the muscles of his back to feel the coiled strength in faint tremors. Her voice was broken yet resolute. Your Majesty, we have become one. The path ahead may hold more trials, but I believe this bond can withstand anything. The story is not yet fully over. Amid the kingdom's prosperity, new possibilities are taking shape, while the old god's departure leaves countless questions. Will the full power of the eternal core attract other factions? Will even stronger guardians of balance awaken after the blood moon? And what new legends will Ella and Ronan's union unleash in the future? They stood side by side atop the palace tower, gazing at the faintly rippling border in the distance. As the night breeze swept past, their silhouettes overlapped, and the fused golden blue glow flickered softly in the darkness. Friends, this forbidden tale of the werewolf Alpha and the Magic Queen concludes with an open-ended balance, leaving endless possibilities for the kingdom's reconstruction, the lingering aftermath of the ancient gods, and more adventures to come. Every fusion, resonance, and deepening of their bond is filled with tension and anticipation. If you enjoy this narrative, one that evolves from feigned weakness to standing shoulder to shoulder, from conflict to an eternal, yet not entirely closed bond, remember to follow, like, and share with your friends so we can discuss where the story goes next. Tell me in the comments, what do you most want to see them explore next? Is it delving into the ruins of the ancient gods, facing new external threats, or developing subplots involving their emotions and future generations? Your ideas will help me decide whether to launch a brand new chapter. Let's continue this fantasy world together.